Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed, and today we are in the Jesus and Socrates, a Dialogue in Heaven text. Oh my goodness, this one is a banger. Wake your neighbors, wake the kids, wake the dog, get them in here. This book is super significant, but I think is one of the most significant books ever written. It's the last published book before Pierre Grimes, a master of the Logos and the Dharma successor, so Buddha as well, because Buddha is a title given to the of enlightened one, but also the successor to the teaching of the Korean Buddhist line. So ain't no slouch, this guy, as well as being the head teacher at the American College of Religious Sciences. So he knows his spirituality, he knows his philosophy, and of course he gave us the midwifery book, how to reflect using the understanding of the dialectic on human problems in order to free us from the problems that we face as human beings individually and ultimately collectively. So this guy, rival to Socrates, adding to the tradition of Socrates, wrote this book. What would happen if Jesus and Socrates met in heaven? What kind of a conversation would they have? Now, I just got back from the gym and I had an opposite kind of conversation. I just got approached for enjoying the music on the karaoke machine and having a good time. Some bully came up to me and said, "Oh, I don't like that you play music." So, okay, what sort of music would you like to hear? Maybe I can mix some of your favorite music in too. No, nothing. Neutral. I said, there is no such thing as neutral music. What do you mean by neutral music? Oh, just wear headphones. So, that's neat. My gym going experience is now under a cloud of negativity because of a couple of bullies that go there who don't like to see other people having fun. Now, we recognize that as playing the role of the pathologos knower. It takes skill and understanding and development to develop as a human being, to be in a position of that Socrates and Jesus reached in their life, to be able to benefit people. Now, what's easier than developing skill and understanding? What's easier than going through the process of reflecting on our false images of knowing? Just imitating the cruelty of our childhood. Imitating or cosplaying the knower, crushing people who are enjoying themselves. That makes you a big, strong man. Of course it doesn't. It's the cause of all human problems, and it plays out in all areas, including the gym. So, being someone who enjoys music and likes to have a good time, that's a warning sign to people who, when they were having a good time, when they were having fun, their parents crushed them. So until they wake up to the importance of philosophical midwifery, they will go around crushing others should they have the opportunity. And the opportunity presented himself when I was outnumbered. There was one of me and two of these thugs in the gym. So, cowards and bullies. That's what we have to deal with in the human experience. But hopefully, enough of us will pick up on this new way of being, the love of understanding, that we can understand those images that we are imitating. Understand the fundamental beliefs about ourselves, about what it means to be knowing, that we spend our lives imitating, and is the fundamental cause to cruelty and bullying or tyranny in our world. Be it a couple of jokers at the gym, be it Donald Trump stealing all the money and taking away all the money from the human needs that everybody has, the social services, and setting up concentration camps, which seems to be, in a just society, that would alarm bells would be going off for everyone in the world, because concentration camps ain't good. Supporting a genocide of the Palestinians, and so on. So, can we develop and practice a new way of being where we reflect on those images that we are compelled to play out should the opportunity to present itself? Because you got elected, or because you've outnumbered someone at the gym, or A similar situation happened to me a couple of weeks ago when I was busking, and a couple of thugs decided that they needed to play my guitar and punched me in the head. So, yes, interesting world that we live in, but hopefully this podcast reaches enough people that they realize, oh, this new way of being, the movement from beliefs, from human problems into justice, into understanding, that's a better way of being. Maybe we should all embrace that. So that's where I am today. A little bit annoyed that my gym experience is now has that cloud of negativity, but I will do my best to ignore them until they choose to address me as equals and reason. I don't expect that from a lot of people. That has been a experience I've had of humanity. Not a lot of people seem to be interested in becoming better. Not a lot of people seem to be open to addressing the root cause of their injustice, their false images of themselves, and their false beliefs, including the images of their loved ones. And very few people are interested in developing understanding. But for those of you out there who do love understanding and do want to be better and do want to make a better world, this podcast is for you.
No one seems to be learning or growing or addressing actual problems.
That was the wrong button. I meant to press this one.
This guy had to admit that the people in his life who helped convince him to be a conservative in the first place, parents, clergy, other authority figures, were wrong. Not only was wrong, but lied to him, and that he fell for it. All of that takes so much courage and character.
That's it, courage and character. Because when we examine our false beliefs, there are implications on those who we believe, which takes courage and character to look at our original teachers and say they were wrong and they lied to me. Easy to do with other people, hard to do with our own parental figures. But absolutely the meaning of life. What we need to do is exactly that, because it's a necessary aspect in moving from belief-based thinking into understanding, the next step in human evolution, and the necessary step if we want to solve human problems. So, with that in mind, let's jump into what is Jesus and Socrates, people who have spent some time doing some reflection, have spent some time developing understanding, let's hope. What kind of a conversation would they have? Hopefully better than the one I just had in the gym. So let's jump in about here, a couple of pages in, and you can find a link to the text below. You can join the Discord, you can follow on Twitch and YouTube, and if you're on Discord, you get a notification when we go live. And of course, you're welcome to donate to the channel. We're not yet affiliate with Twitch. We're on our way to affiliate. We need an average of 3 live viewers on Twitch, and we are not there yet. But you can donate to the channel. There's a buy me a coffee link below. Now, jumping in with Jeebus. That's how the cool kids say Jesus. Where are our characters? There we are. Those guys and those guys. Okay, here we go. Jesus. Page 6. I expected that you would add that you philosophers cultivate memory to become more perfect. I noticed that your group didn't explore the nature of sin, but rather the power of the presence or absence of wisdom. Interesting. Different way of making sense of human problems. Are we innately bad and need to feel bad and justify punishing because we're all bad sinners? Or is the human development from a lack of wisdom to wisdom? One justifies violence and ignorance. The other makes the case for everyone being able to meet all of our needs in the most efficient way so that we can reflect on understanding to develop wisdom. 2 very different ways of being. You are correct there, Jesus. After exploring the extremes, the mean would be easier to unfold. With our questions, we are likely to benefit. And it may even give us a way to grasp the way providence unfolds. You are right in that view, says Jesus. It is not often that we are given the chance to see how providence unfolds. Clearly, we have both continued your quest here in the heavens, as I have also been a participant in divine luminosity. You refer to being in that state as being in the Isles of the Blessed. As you know, the paths we travel along are parallel and are illuminated through the divine. As you were commanded to be a philosopher, so was I appointed to fulfill my sacred mission. Our teachings were directed at both common people and an inner circle. We both faced a fierce prejudice against our spiritual paths. You were accused, tried in public, sentenced, and died for what you truly are. Just as some say I too suffered the same fate. Further, our work has continued to flourish. Most important, we both experienced profound spiritual states that shaped our lives and our teachings. It is from this sameness we can go along the path of comparing not only our teachings, but also the way our teachings have been passed on to others. True that is, Jesus, says Socrates. But we both saw the depth and power of that prejudice. It springs from a fear of having fun at the gym. Fear of the mind. The fear drowns out any voice that seeks a rational approach to the encounter with the divine. So, prejudice faced by both of these dudes. That's the human condition. What's our prejudice? False belief. It is caused by a fear of the mind. That's where we are in human culture right now. And that fear drowns out any voice that seeks a rational approach. 2, the encounter with the divine. You can't know the divine. You can't have an enlightenment experience. And if you do, you sure as hell can't understand it. That's the fear. I too have had followers who even denied it was possible to truly know the furthermost reach of the mind. So I have noticed this as well. Learning philosophy with the rare special few who are interested in this kind of a thing. I have noticed, and it's been a curiosity, that when people reach a certain level, there seems to be a catchphrase that even philosophy or spiritual people tend to use when they reach the limit that they're at currently. That catchphrase is, it's unknowable. What's the word? There's a funny word that means the same thing. Not incommensurate. Beyond words, something like that. There's a word for it that means. I don't know what it is. I can't remember. It'll come to me. Some people apply it to the second hypothesis, the brilliant light of being. People will apply it to wherever they're at. This is unknowable. It's beyond language. Now, the tricky thing is the first hypothesis of Parmenides, the one self, that can be understood in a certain kind of way. That's often a tricky one. So, I too have had followers who even denied it was possible to truly know the furthermost reach of the mind. I went along an ancient path that others before me had taken, and surely others will follow after me. That's you. You're on that path, the path of understanding. Those who seek that true knowing of the eternal and unchanging Okay, so there are those that seek true knowing of the eternal and unchanging, and there are some that may even go beyond that to that which is beyond knowing. That's the first hypothesis that we've been talking about on this channel. Hey, if there is a cause, if there is such an experience of pure knowing, then surely there must be a cause of it. How do we know the cause if it's itself transcendent of knowledge? How do we know the self beyond knowledge? The first hypothesis, that's one of the big puzzles. Yet it is obvious that some among those who are called our followers deny the light and return to their own darkness. Deny the light. You can't know. Go back to the everyday world. Curious, is it not, that what we bring others are quick to deny? There are some who offer what we never said in order to conceal their fear of the light. This is important because one of the ways into philosophy is to recognize that there is something called knowing. That's what philosophy is, the study of the knowable experience or wisdom. But if every human being has a fundamental pathologos from childhood, then our first reaction will be to deny that. So even the best of us might need some time and convincing that philosophy is worth getting into. While we explore our sameness, we should turn our attention to those whose fear drives them to escape from the light. True, says Jesus. Now, let me just read that again. Socrates is saying, while we explore the sameness, we should also turn our attention to those whose fear drives them to escape the light of pure intelligence. Jesus says, true, they run away from what we are drawn to. So they either find a way to escape or they are drawn into the same thing that we are drawn to. Are we so different from the rest of mankind that our teachings can't work on the many? They run away from the light and hide behind impossible belief. Impossible belief. They adopt the most outrageous folly as if it were the highest truth. They cultivate a kind of blinding ignorance that leaves no room for intelligible light. It's not that we all get a pathologos, it's that we all spend our life cultivating our ignorance, cultivating that way of being, approaching strangers in the gym to cultivate that ignorant way of being, become identified with it. And that ignorance leaves no room for the light of pure intelligence. Is it true that we share many teachings and practices, or do we differ in one and not the other? I do believe we share a similar practice, Socrates, and that much of our teachings are similar, but not the same. We both seize upon those moments when we see people receptive and open to being challenged. At those times, we confront their most fundamental beliefs so that a new and more spiritual level of understanding can emerge. So, we want people who are receptive and open. There are some moments when people are receptive and open to being challenged. And I put forward that the better people have more of these moments. And ideal relationships are to cultivate the place, the setting for that openness. Ain't at the gym, apparently. But of course, if you have friends or partners that share a love of understanding, creating the space for that openness and receptivity would be a fun part of that relationship. At those times, we confront their most fundamental beliefs. So that a new and more spiritual level of understanding can emerge. Notice, not experience yet. We challenge our fundamental beliefs through understanding to create space for new kind of understanding. That's why the new way of being we call not philosophy, not philosophia, the love of wisdom, but philodianoia, the love of understanding. that brings us to wisdom, can also address false beliefs, can maintain wisdom, and maybe we can even understand what is beyond wisdom. We both urge them to turn to that light that illuminates all things and brings smiles to the wise. Our difference lies in that I challenge those in my circle to enter the kingdom of God, while you're... So anyone familiar with the four Gospels will know that he says, the parables have a secret teaching just to my disciples. The many are not to understand, but you guys have to unpack the understanding. Those in his circle, that's a difference. While your circle is society itself, Socrates does not play favorites. And I guess that's the ethos of the channel. We do have a small circle because we're not a popular channel yet. You just wait. But we keep saying this is the human quest, the archetype of the hero's journey, and the quest of man.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
Your circle, Socrates. Let's make these a little bit bigger so you know who's talking. Your circle, Jesus, is society itself. Says Jesus to Socrates. And you seek to bring your fellow man into that light. Further, your way, Socrates, I believe achieves the same goal, but in different ways. You lay bare the shortcomings in man's behavior and in the reasoning they use to justify themselves. Your eye is always on the drama behind justice and injustice. You offer a way of reasoning that centers in the rational vision of man. We can be rational by displaying before them an ideal way of reasoning. We call that demonstration. It brings them to a new vitalizing sense of truth. You urge excellence in all that can be done, that all that is done. What is this but to bring that sense of excellence to their search for a new, profound, inner way of being? You urge contemplating truth. My work challenges my people's unthinking commitment to This is one hell of a sentence. Jesus is saying his vision for his work challenges people's unthinking commitment to an apocalyptic vision and eschatology. In other words, a lot of people, even today, think that the purpose of life is a battleground between good and evil. So what we need to do is hurry up the end of that and create a apocalypse. Armageddon, end of the world. And a lot of them are in charge of all of the nukes right now. Eschatology is the study of the soul and also the final purpose of our being. So we think that the meaning of life is an apocalyptic vision. And Jesus is saying, what I'm doing is challenging people's belief in that. Commitment to that. For the true destiny of man is to be discovered here and now through self-discovery and not through the destruction of the cosmos. Good call. Maybe we should stop killing each other and hurting each other. And instead go through a process of self-discovery. Socrates. You have expressed our similarity well, but I would highlight the issue of practice. You are correct to stress that each of us has a practice. However, my practice is so complete that it is my way of life. Still, I need to say that it is driven by my duty to God, for I have been chosen by God to fulfill the task of being a philosopher. Interesting. Have I been chosen by God to be the most popular streamer on Twitch? I don't know, but I want all of my viewers to send an email to the guy who owns Twitch, Tim Twitch, and say, we believe that Jed has been chosen by God to be the most popular Twitch streamer. So get all of Asmongold's and all of Asmongold and Hassan Parker's viewers and make them watch this instead. I will neither confirm or deny that that is correct, but I will take all the viewers. There is no higher role or benefit than my acting out my role in Athens, says Socrates. No higher role or benefit. Yes, says Jesus, we share that kind of practice even though we went along different ways to achieve it. Surely I know you have tried to understand and deal with similar problems, Socrates. So how would you express what you found? However similar we may seem, our interpreters find differences most startling and extreme. Can there be a way to understand these many interpretations of what we have said and done? Is there something that drives this fragmentation of the Logos into irreconcilable parts? What I saw many times is that the return to darkness of shadowy belief. That sounds like an epic album title. Or song title, Return to the Darkness of Shadowy Belief. Was simply because they believed their beliefs were clearer and truer than what we had shown them. Does taking on early beliefs make it too difficult to see what is here to be seen? Does taking on early beliefs make it too difficult to see what is here to be seen? Now hang on, just notice. Here we are. Does taking on early beliefs make it too difficult, says Socrates, to see what is here to be seen? Or shall it be said that the problems that are manifested during one's earthly existence can only be solved in the afterlife? Like the priest says. Just shut up and do as you're told and be a good servant, and then maybe you'll find out in heaven. Or does the fullest expression of problems experienced on earth reveal what you need to see? But you have to await until death to see if the solutions of those problems truly benefit after death. Interesting. He's kind of talking about two different things. Can we solve problems here because every experience is a message? Or do we have to wait till death? Or is it a mixture of both? Jesus says, yes, Socrates, I see why you came to those issues. I like the way we are reviewing this task of ours. However, it leaves me with another question. When you want to study anything that is whole, should we not be careful that we start off identifying each of the parts, whole and parts? Bingo, bango, bongo. For surely any interpretation should treat each part or piece of the whole with integrity, or one's efforts will fail. Dun, dun, dun. Yes, that is a good way to go, says Jesus. Then whatever interpretation is made of our work, it would be wise to judge if each interpretation gives a balanced and fair representation of the whole, of which the parts are parts of our work. So we're going to see who can speak for these two dudes. They have to give a balanced and fair representation of the whole and the parts. Yes, says Jesus, I can agree to that, while still wondering why there are so many interpreters of our work. Among my interpreters, I even wonder if there are some who came to see my own deepest thought about the divine destiny of man, but who have been rejected by the many. Okay. Are there people who recognized a deeper significance in the, rather than what they get from their preacher on Sunday, but because they're not going with the many, they are rejected? So we're not just going for the common version, we want the real version. And there may be some people who see that real version of Jesus' work that have been rejected by the many. Came to see his deepest thoughts about the destiny of man, but have been rejected by the many. Surely humans don't act in that way. Ha 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 ha. If you please, we could examine each of these interpretations about the destiny of man, couldn't we? Collecting these interpreters in terms of their likeness and unlikeness. We want people, we're after the destiny of man, and we're looking for likenesses and unlikenesses, two of the self-logos from the Parmenides, whole and part, like and unlike. Collecting these interpreters in terms of their likeness and unlikeness might help us review them and judge if they have advanced our thought or not. These interpreters of ours may fit into a single category or idea, and that raises an interesting question. Are there natural divisions or parts of that whole? What whole? The whole of interpreters? I certainly am not against exploring any idea, says Jesus. However, I have often wondered if it is worth all the effort to break an idea into so many pieces. I wonder what benefit follows from chasing down their sameness or likeness in the idea of the destiny of man. Is there a benefit to this? Sameness, and now we've got sameness. Now we are collecting a list of self-logos terms. If we want to explore an idea, what categories or terms do we use in our reflection? Whole and part. We need the whole, but we need to treat every part with integrity. Likeness and unlikeness. How are they like or unlike each other? Sameness and difference. Goodness or benefit. What benefit will come to us understanding the same or different interpretations of what these men have said? And therefore, the sameness and difference in how they understand the destiny of man, or our fundamental purpose. Why are we here and where are we going? We want to understand it. Not as an opinion, not as a belief, as understanding. And also we want to verify it. Either in that brilliant light of the Isles of the Blessed, or the pure light of Usia or being, or that which is even beyond that. As interesting as it might be to explore that idea, it would be different from the task we have been given. I agree with that. What idea? Breaking down the sameness or likeness in the different ideas of the breaking down the differences and samenesses in different interpretations of the destiny of man. That's not the task we've been given. I agree, says Jesus. What do you offer, Sok? If our search requires us to examine many voices, would it not be interesting to see if there are only a finite number of interpretations so that their sameness can be addressed? Wow. Okay, I'm pausing because that's awesome. That's what I want to hear. Round of applause. Hooray. Bigger. That's not bigger.
Pour much.
Come on. There we go. Why? I like a list. I like a complete list, like a dialectic, or like the paradigm of the states of evolution that we call the hypotheses of Parmenides. I like that there are 4 categories of the dialectic. So you want to understand well? Just follow these 4 steps. I like that. It takes the manyness and it organizes them into a structure of terms that can be hierarchically arranged, best to worst. That's understanding. I love understanding. So, if there are many interpreters of Jeebus and Socrates, can we ask if there is a finite list of possible ways of interpreting them or anything? So that when we meet someone who has their own interpretation of this or that thing, or Jesus or Socrates, we'll say, oh, that's where you're at. You're at number 7. You're interpreting in this kind of a way. So, there we have a question. Let's highlight that and give it a fancy color to indicate a question or a promise that we hope or we expect is solved within the text itself. There are only a finite number of interpretations. Let's hope by the end of this book, let's make it pink. We have them. If our search requires us to examine many voices, would it not be interesting to see if there are only a finite number of interpretations so that their sameness can be addressed? If so, it might reduce the vast number of voices to a finite set of groups, which Jed loves to do. And maybe all of the viewers who also love understanding would really appreciate as well. And that will let us address each as we go. Shall we then review those presumed followers of ours and see how many groups or divisions they fall into? However, if it turns out that our interpreters do not fall into well-defined classes, we will be at a loss to understand what has been going on. I am one of those people who don't like to admit that there is no order in the realm of reasoning. Ooh. Calling our shots. Now, if we had a lot of Twitch viewers, they'd be saying, "You've pre-watched this," or "You've pre-read this," and sometimes it'd be like, "Oh, calling your shots." Like in basketball, if you want to shoot it off the glass, you might say "off the glass," and or "red ball corner pocket" if you're playing snooker. In other words, you're so skilled that you know what's going to happen. Or Babe Ruth pointing to the left and then hitting a home run over there. Left field. Why? Because Socrates is saying, yeah, I don't like saying that there is no order in the realm of reasoning. I don't like that. So I hope we can find an ordered list of possible interpretations. Otherwise, if they do not fall into a class of well-defined class, we probably will be at a loss to understand. So these are the stakes of finding. Finding a list of all possible ways of interpreting something. Neat. My new chair is already squeaky. Hopefully I can fix it with some oil. What? Jesus. I mean Socrates. I dropped my water bottle. It's got protein in it. Make my muscles big and strong. Somebody told me that if I want all of the Twitch viewers, I have to do a boxing match against Asmongold and Hassan Piker. So I need to get big and strong. Oh, get real buff so I can box them for the viewers. Creator Clash 5 or something. I need my protein. I am all for that idea, says Jesus. It may prove to be an interesting way of going. Oof, by howdy. What is the source of that model you plan on following, Socrates? Or did you discover this approach yourself? Is there a model that will allow us to put everyone into a group? It was Plato, says Socrates, who said that Prometheus's gift to man was the dialectic.
Imagine changing their positions and improving for the better.
Imagine we have a way of changing our positions and improving for the better that we can mythologize as Prometheus's gift to man.
Imagine people changing their positions and improving for the better.
Imagine. What have we been doing for the last 2 years or however long it's been on this channel? We have been learning the dialectic. We call it Philodainoia, the love of understanding. But the method is the dialectic. Those 4 parts we've been talking about. Do you remember them? Here they are. The subject in relation to itself, the subject in relation to others or its functioning, the effect of that functioning on others, and as a result of all this, how do we relate back to the original topic? Self to self, self to others, others to others, others back to self. You want to explore an idea? Talk about it itself, in relation to itself. You also want to talk about how it functions. You also want to talk about the effect of that functioning. And you also want to say, hey, having been affected by all that functioning, how do the others then relate back to that original thing? Would that be a good way of understanding something? 4 categories. 1, 2, 3, 4. Isn't that neat? The gift from the gods to humanity.
Imagine people changing their positions and improving for the better.
Allowing us to change our positions and improve for the better is only 4 steps. You don't have to be a math genius. You have to be someone who's curious and open and willing to challenge the fundamental beliefs you get from childhood. And there'll be 200,000 people like that after I win Boxing Clash number 5 and I beat up Hassan and Asmongold together. One hand over there and one hand there. Maybe. Yet to be seen. It's a prophecy. Okay? It was Plato who said that Prometheus's gift to man was the dialectic. Hooray. From that gift, it's Socrates talking, so I gotta do the old man voice. The Descartes Kane voice. From that gift, all of the arts came into existence that moved man from a creature of nature that was forced to live in caves. The origin that often when we trace our pathologos back through our family lineage, it goes all the way back to cavemen. So why are we acting as savages? Why do we still have wealth inequality when we could just be living in an amazing utopia where everyone is happy, everyone is fed, everyone gets a house? Why do we still have to murder people and starve people and genocide people? Because we started as a creature of nature forced to live in caves, to being able to be a mean between the nature and the intelligible realm. We love mean analogies. We've been talking a lot about that in the symposium. Also, from that gift, all the arts came into existence. In other words, if you want to master music, if you want to master geometry, if you want to master astronomy, if you want to master anything, cooking, let's see how those specific arts are generated from the first art, the dialectic. Can you see the octave, the perfect fifth, and the perfect fourth as aspects within the dialectic? What's the fifth? What's the fourth term if there are four? Major and minor. Is one a movement around the circle of fifths in one direction and one the other direction? One a movement back to the dialectic through the positive and one the negative? Yeah, I'm just using what I've been wondering about from music, but whatever it is that you're into, can you see the reflection of the dialectic in it? There's a challenge. And if you do see it, please join our Discord and share what you've seen in the Discord, so we can all benefit from your work. Speaking of Discord, let me make sure I've posted that I'm going live. I have posted, and let me see if all my friends are online. Some of them are. Okay. He taught us that before a subject is to be explored, it's important to first draw the divisions within that subject, and then to see how they relate to one another. Then, from Hesiod and Aeschylus, we learned much about Prometheus. Together, they are the ones who carried the torch of reason and has helped us understand human predicament. Carried the torch of reason. What a wonderful thing to do. Understand the human predicament. Oh my goodness. What is our predicament? All mankind is caught between the extremes of being a part of nature and the intelligible. We have been understanding the meaning of life and the nature of human problems as the need to develop an understanding of that dialectic, to move from belief-based thinking to understanding. But here Socrates is saying another way of understanding that is, hey, that belief-based thinking that goes all the way back to being living in caves without reason, that's where it came from. That's being a part of nature, being an evolving creature, evolving into intelligence, and being a part of nature into the intelligible. How do we understand and experience the intelligible? The dialectic. How do we address our caveman part of nature aspect? Philosophical midwifery. The dialectic applied to beliefs. So there we have it. The mean seems to be this dialectic. We are a part of nature, but we can also participate in the intelligible. So sometimes on the channel we call this the double-edged sword of being human. Human beings can be the most savage terrible, terrible sons of bitches. Not just at the gym, but everywhere. That's the negative part. That's the caveman part. The irrational and harmful part. Pathologos. Belief-based thinking. However, we can also be a fantastic. We can potentially evolve completely. Especially if we are doing dream analysis. We can live many lifetimes in our dreams. In one lifetime. So, we are a mean analogy between the extremes. Now, mean analogy is simply... No, this one. Mean analogy. Mean analogy, the expression we like to use. Let's use the symposium because it's a good one. Because it's Socrates' enlightenment experience and his teacher was a lady. Ooh. There can be a completely enlightened mystic who then taught one of the greatest minds ever, who's female. So, really puts a hole in that whole sexism debate that people bound by pathologos like to talk about, like right-wingers, conservatives, or Nazis. So, diatima is to Socrates as those two lines, the two dots, double dots mean as Socrates is to. Now we're trying to find that in the symposium because we're reading the symposium at the moment, but for now we can say you, my Twitch viewer. That doesn't fit. You, the Twitch viewer. The guy who says poggers.
What feminists want is to do a poggers.
What feminists want is to do a poggers. There we go. Twitch viewer. So, the way one relates to the other, Socrates is the mean because he brings this extreme to this extreme. You will never meet Diotima. But through the words of Socrates that we read, thank you to the Balboas who have translated the Platonic dialogues for the first time in history properly, we can now get the words of Socrates and we can become like Diotima. Teacher is to student as Socrates as a teacher is to us. Or rather, guru is to student as Socrates as our guru is to us. That's a mean analogy. And Socrates is saying, hey, we are intelligible over here. Now, because these guys, that one term does double duty, we can just simplify it. The intelligible is to man as man is to his caveman nature. So we are a mean between these extremes. Meaning we have the potential to be a guru or leader over nature. We can be a caregiver, a leader, a caregiver, a protector of Mother Nature by using intelligible principles to make our laws. Not like conservatives do or Nazis do, where they say, hey, one principle for the rich, another principle for the poor. That's not intelligible. Hey, let's destroy nature for the profit of a few billionaires. Let's kill nature. Let's dump all the oil into the sea. Let's continue doing oil instead of the many sorts of sustainable, renewable, eco-friendly energy sources. That's not a principle. That's a hypocrisy. meaning it's not intelligible. Because intelligible is eternal. That's that eternal light we've been talking about. The principles are eternal, which means if we can rule nature or have laws on how we relate to ourselves and nature, they need to be principles that are universal, intelligible, and beneficial. That's what it would mean to be to evolve from cavemen into the true destiny of man. So if you can imagine a sci-fi Star Wars movie, a Star Wars episode where they go to a different planet and Captain Jones, I want to say, says, "Look here, Spock, these people seem to be..." Kirk, thank you. Thank you, new chatter. Captain Kirk, "Look here, Spock, these people on this planet seem to be living in a way according to principles that are eternal. And look, they are complete caregiver over nature. Look at how Mother Nature is flourishing. And look how all people are treated equally. They don't have rich and poor. Instead of trying to be billionaires, they instead focus on trying to be equal, because that's a principle. You can't have billionaires. That's a stupid way of thinking. Look how they're happy. And they can use resources not to exploit people to extract profit or value. No, no, no. They are trying to most efficiently and renewably meet all human needs in a sustainable way according to nature, so that we are completely free of work, so we can spend our time moving from belief-based caveman thinking to knowing the nature of reality and fulfilling our destiny. Can you believe it, Spock?" And Spock will say, "Yes, that is a rational way of being. It is completely logical. In fact, planet Earth should be like this." And then Captain Kirk says, "Oh my goodness, we need to get all of Asmongold's viewers to watch the Awakening Philosophy channel on Twitch, and all of Hassan Piker's viewers to watch. That's the only way we can save our planet." And then Captain Spock will say, "That is logical." See? The episode writes itself. So that's the mean analogy. And let me just delete all the scribble. A mean analogy. Yeah, love the Hassan reference. Yes, thanks. We are between the two extremes. So, as Socrates was saying, Prometheus' gift to man was the dialectic, said Plato. And from that all of the other arts came into existence. That moved man from being a creature of nature that was forced to live in caves to being able to be a mean between nature and the intelligible realms. He taught us that before a subject is to be explored, it is important to first draw the divisions within that subject and then to see how they relate to one another. And from Hesiod and Asclepius, whoever that is, we learned much about Prometheus. Together, they are the ones who carried the torch of reason that has helped us to understand the human predicament. What is that predicament, you ask? All mankind is caught between the extremes of being a part of nature and the intelligible. What's between the extremes? The mean. What's the art that allows us to fulfill our purpose, to bind them together and to reach our highest extreme? The dialectic. Now, Socrates, says Jesus, as I might have expected, I see that means that you are following through with the gift of Prometheus. I would still like to see if making these divisions help us understand what lies behind the multiplicity of voices. Can we create a set of divisions to understand all of the different possible ways of interpreting something. All of the voices that claim to speak for Jesus or Socrates. And maybe that will allow us to really get to the heart of what was actually being said. Let's take this problem of ours and state it in the most general of terms. Then we will be able to see if it fits our particular problem. Yes, that is likely. And it just might also explain why this flood of interpreters war against each other. You've seen them. Protestants killing Catholics, and Episcopalians and Anglicans and Mormons and all sorts, all killing each other like savages. Have you seen this, Socrates? I'm adding that. That's not in the book. Flood of interpreters war against each other. Perhaps we will continue with this task of ours. It may help us understand our fundamental difference. That's what we're after. What's the difference between these two guys? Surely, and finding such a difference and making it clear should help us see what irreconcilable difference there is that cannot be bridged into a unity. Is there something fundamentally irreconcilable between these two jabronis here? Let us consider, then, as you consider these divisions of interpreters, would you please set forth what it is you have come to see about their necessity? That's an interesting take. We do know that there are interpreters, but is it necessary that as an evolving species we met with a flood of interpreters of these two figures? That's an interesting question. I thought about that before. Now that is fair. We can say that whenever a new truth is brought into view, well, get ready, that sounds like something cool is coming. The start of the sentence is, whenever a new truth is brought into view, that sounds like something's on our horizon. What do you say, RM?
That's where you live, in the weirdo pool. You're going around doing that. Weirdo. That's you.
Well, apparently we're in the weirdo pool. But let's forget about that for a second. Whenever a new truth is brought into view, what happens? There are some who accept it in full as it is. Oh, okay. Neat. Okay. Let's all do that then, hey? A new truth, let's accept it. In possessing their new vision, they drop the old and they have little need to comment on the old. That sounds like a good thing. Next. Oh, we hadn't finished. Next, there are those who hear it and reject it totally, because they have a fierce loyalty to the old. Ah, that sounds more like the people we know running around on planet Earth at the moment. Okay, so accept it in full and drop the old. Or hear it and reject it totally because of a fierce loyalty to the old. That which we address in midwifery. Why are we fiercely loyal to our problems and our ignorance? And we do not want to believe anything new. So those sound like two extremes, don't they? Completely take a new truth, completely reject any new truth, like a racist or something, or a sexist, or any. I love people like that. A third group gives the appearance of accepting the new. Oh, these are a sneaky bunch. But in reality, they substitute their own alien system for the new, while claiming a higher truth guides their own creation. Interesting. Can we think of an example of that? How about this? How about a lot of Abrahamic religions villainize and subjugate women? Women are less than men and they are property to men. And then, as we realizing as a new truth is brought into view, women are equal, not the same, but equal in value and meaning and potential to participate in the destiny of man and make that hero's journey. There are some that pretend to accept this new vision, but really substitute their own alien vision for the new. Still be sexist? Claiming a higher truth guides them. The Bible still says that women are less than men, or something like that. Yes, we accept women's rights. But actually, we're not going to let any woman be a preacher, or a pope, or have a career. Maybe? Not sure, let's keep thinking. They subvert and deny the new while claiming to speak for it. How about all of the leftists that are really conservatives in wolves' clothing? Wolves in sheep's clothing. Yes, I believe in left wing, but also I'm taking all this money from Israel to do genocide. I claim to be progressive, but I think billionaires should exist. Good for business. Which is one of the reasons why Trump got re-elected. How many of the left-wing establishment are actually right-wingers? Most. They subvert and deny the new while claiming to speak for it. How much time did Nancy Pelosi give AOC at the Democratic convention? Peterson comes to mind on that front. Ooh, please say more, say more. Good.
Be a kid, hard.
Oops.
Iluma! Keep that little... Call it crackhead. Keep that little... Iluma!
Beat a kid in Walmart.
Call it crackhead.
Hi.
There we go. I have a Jordan Peterson sound drop, but it's on a random grid, so I had to press a lot of ones to come to it. Traditionally left-leaning in the way he proposed ideas, but... yeah, I need a bigger soundboard. So sometimes there's like one that I can think of, oh, this would be right for this one, but I have to press like the button like 10 times to get to the one.
Call it crackhead.
Yeah, there's that senator saying call it crackhead. Right, he proposed to be speaking for the left, but really he was a Nazi or conservative. Same thing. Pathologos driven. But now he leans far more right and made comments about profiting off social justice warriors. Sorry. Yes, take your time. I'm going to throw in my tidbits, but I'll read it when it comes up. Yeah, traditionally left-leaning, but now he's all about the right wing. Making comments about profiting off social justice warriors. Yes, he does. He boasts about it, doesn't he? While being paid by the Daily Wire, a fascist right-wing propaganda network. Clearly, their own core beliefs are so threatened that they... Oh, this is good, isn't it? So now we're seeing why they act this way. Their own core beliefs are so threatened that they claim to know the truth about the new, and they craft their creation to replace the new. I know better, because my beliefs from mummy and daddy. Says Trump the racist, says Elon the racist, says Peterson the racist. A lot of these guys are racist, isn't it interesting? Caveman. Our cave good, every other people outside cave bad and scary. That's the origin of this irrational tribalism that we seek to address in philosophical midwifery. We can become free of it by understanding where was our passing of that torch when we were young and having fun and doing well. They switch from one thing for another. They switch one thing for another, as if by magic, and insist this is the new. We could call them, calling my shots up in here, off the glass, wolves in sheep's clothing. The good old, I am open and progressive until I have to actually practice that which I preach. Absolutely. Which might challenge my fundamental core beliefs. That soundboard is legendary. Thank you. I designed it myself. I've been programming it on a program called Xcode. And I don't know any programming, so it's taken me a long, long time. The soundboard I made that allows me to hear those cheering kids. I can feed them beer, which makes them sound like this. They can get progressively drunk.
Too stupid to understand and also refusing to understand.
There we go. That's terrifying. I'm going to scare you into enlightenment. I'll take a quick break, take a piss, I'll be right back. I didn't have to say that out loud. Wolves appearing as sheep, says Socrates. Am I a teacher in the real world? I'm a musician in the real world, and I am a read-along person on Twitch. Yes. Passion. I was very fortunate to come across a master of the Logos. The Logos is the intelligible structure of reality, and he shared with us a book called Philosophical Midwifery, a new paradigm of understanding human problems. So about half the time, I guess, on this channel, we read that book, which outlines the structure of understanding, the dialectic, how it's used to guide reasoned reflection on the problems that we have in our life that block us from our goals, to find the root cause of it, to free us from this blind allegiance to beliefs that prevent us from learning. So people who can't change their mind with new evidence or reason. We all have that problem. It's the only form of psychotherapy that's been empirically verified. And that's the book. That's the most important thing we can do, because if we carry a fundamental false belief about what's true about ourselves and what's just and what's beautiful, it controls our entire life. We call that fate. The most important thing we can do is go through midwifery. That's a term Socrates coined, to surface our fundamental beliefs, free ourselves from it by addressing that early scene with understanding and fairness. And that frees us to ask the next question. Well, now that we have this new skill called understanding, or the dialectic, and now that we're free of what's false about self, reality, beauty, goodness, let's use it to find what is the truth about those things. What is the highest reach of our mind? What is reality itself? And what is the self that is even beyond knowledge? That's philosophy. That's real philosophy, not the garbage they teach you in school. I agree with all you said so far, which is fundamental, in my estimation, achieving self-actualization. Absolutely, well put. Where do you feel the foundation of your method of reasoning is? Socratic, Platonic thought. That's a good question. Let's take a tangent for fun. So historically, we have the earliest text that we have is from a guy named Xenophanes. All we have is a quote. What is the whole that sees and hears? That's all we have from him. He taught Parmenides. Parmenides was met by Socrates when Socrates was a young lad, about 19. That's the question. You got it. The whole of what? That's been the question that we've been wondering about since we found this. Yeah, the whole of what? Some say the whole of mind. Some say the whole of God. Some say the whole of self. The interesting thing about this as a question is we can carry it 100% of our time, even while dreaming. To have a question about this that has that reach, that you wonder about and carry, that's called a koan. So there is a challenge. Carry this question for a month and report back and see what happens. Tell us how you go. That's how I've seen people relate to this question. Yes, exactly, you got it. Like in Zen Buddhism. Except it's not a koan you get from someone else. It's your own koan, because we're naturally curious about ourselves, and we're also naturally curious about our problems. We'll get to that. So Parmenides taught Socrates, and we have that book. And in that book, Parmenides outlines the dialectic, and Socrates says, give me an example. Hot stone, yes. Hot stone that you can neither swallow nor spit up. So that's the, that's the nature of a koan. So you can't ruin your curiosity. The thing is, if it's a question about the self or the whole or mind, then you will carry it until you actually can get an answer. But the answer would have to be some sort of knowledge of the self, which is what we're after the whole time. Socrates asked for a demonstration of the dialectic, and he gave us the first hypothesis, which was a systematic use of the terms that we are seeing in this text: whole and part, same and different, like and unlike. All of the fundamental, logical, rational categories of thought used completely systematically in a perfect order. No proof, no justification, no analogies, just pure, systematic, rational use of thought and language to outline the first hypothesis of the one self. And then he was outlining that in a book that we have, and now we have an accurate translation for the first time in history called the Balboa translation. You can Google Balboa Parmenides. You'll find a free copy on the web. There's a link to, no, it's not on this one, but and actually we've gone through the introduction of the Parmenides where he gives us the dialectic. On our YouTube channel. So if you go to the archives, you can go through the reading of the introduction where we get the dialectic. But also we've gone through the first hypothesis of the one self. That's all we've got, because we needed to level up by reading other texts before we can go back, because the second hypothesis is a doozy. First hypothesis of the one self. So he's demonstrating the dialectic, the structure of reasoning, to talk about his self, thyself, the highest self. But the person he's describing it to, Aristoteles, who's the youngest person of Socrates' group of friends, said, I don't think that's likely. Now, instead of addressing whatever false belief he has, which is called philosophical midwifery, surfacing our false beliefs that we've been talking about here, that prevents us from accepting the new truth, he did something else. He said, okay, you know what? I'm going to go through all other possible ways of thinking about the self that human beings, that anybody, that any species, any intelligent species can have. And there are 8 other ones. The second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and the denials of those, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th. These are the 9 hypotheses of Parmenides that outlines the model or map of all of the stages of human development of understanding and experience. There's this experience or state of mind associated with all of these as well, that human beings are evolving through to reach the end. That's why the Parmenides is called the greatest book never read, because Christianity is one of these. Meaning, we didn't have to play out the Dark Ages and the Crusades and the subjugation of women and the slavery and all of the implications of Christianity if we read this book. Oh, that's just the 7th hypothesis. We know what that way of thinking is. We know its limitations. We know the problems it has. And we know how to get from the 6th to the 7th. We don't have to play it out in history if we read the book. And thankfully, we have the Balboa translation, so we can now. So that's interesting because the book we're reading, yes, before Christianity, yes, we didn't have to play it out if we read the book. Any system. So right now, in this book we're reading, Jesus and Socrates, we are asking, can we find a similar paradigm or model that will encapsulate all possible ways of interpretation? So what we're doing is we're adding to this paradigm. If these are possible ways of thinking, can we have a similar model? That's what the book is promising for interpretations. Maybe we get a prophet that reaches the 6th hypothesis at a level of development where most of humanity is in the 7th, and he comes along with a new truth. Maybe when he talks about the 6th, there will be different ways of interpreting them. So, also teaching Socrates was a lady, and that's what we're reading about on the channel. We're reading the Symposium, which talks about Diotima, who was also a teacher of Socrates. And she brought him through this development of understanding to reach the 2nd hypothesis, the brilliant light of pure being. That's the divine intelligible light we've been talking about. And what we just mentioned in the text is Socrates saying, hey, some people are even curious about what is beyond knowing. The 2nd hypothesis is the knowable experience, pure light. That's where we're up to in the Parmenides. We're not going back to that yet, but soon we will. Soon, sometime soon. Now, Diotima said, hey, you know what? One of the qualities of the 2nd hypothesis, self-knowing itself in existence, because these 4 categories is what if self exists? What if self exists? These 4 categories is what if self does not exist. The denial. The one self stands above, beyond existence. The conditions for existence. So the greatest experience, which has to be something that exists, can be the 2nd. That's enlightenment for the Taoists. That's the highest experience for Taoism, which has that yin-yang symbol. One of the qualities of that is beauty. In fact, all of the qualities of that we call the eidos. the aspects that we can intellectually distinguish about pure being. Beauty. Therefore, if you follow your love of beauty through following a guide like the symposium, you can go through all this process and reach the highest experience. And the symposium ends with a question about what's beyond it. That's the yoga of beauty that we're getting from the symposium that we're reading together. Justice. Plato's Republic is about justice as one of its aspects. Symposium and the Republic. Now, what the Parmenides does, the Parmenides breaks down the other aspects of it that are not desirable qualities like justice or beauty, but intellectual, fundamental building blocks of thinking. Whole and part. Same and different. Like and unlike. Everything that you see is going to be like something in that it's a thing, but unlike something because it's different. Same and different, like and unlike. Everything that you ever experience is going to be a whole or a part. These selfers, we call them selfers because they're aspects of self in being, are what Parmenides deals with. And that's worth pointing out because what we are seeing in this conversation between Jesus and Socrates is Jesus is using these categories of pure reason to guide his dialectic, his dialogue with Jesus here. The first thing they said is, hey, let's make sure we get the parts of our teachings and the whole. Let's look at what's the same and different between you and me. Let's look at all of the interpreters and see how they are like and unlike each other. This is guiding his thinking. So one of the questions we have is, hey, if Parmenides was a master of this use of the self-logos through the dialectic, not debate, how well did Socrates learn it if he's able to have this conversation in the afterlife? So, from there, we have Socrates talking about this. All of this so far we can call philosophy. The study of being, that's philosophy or metaphysics, because this is before the physical world. That's philosophy. So anybody who says, oh, philosophy is about how to live in the world, Stoicism. That's not philosophy. That's opinions. The physical world. It's not the world of being. And that's what we saw earlier in this book. Socrates joked, hey, the Stoics and the Cynics. People think that's part of the Platonic tradition, but they don't have a metaphysics, which is philosophy. The study of wisdom, the second hypothesis, which is being, not becoming, the world of being. They don't have a mythology, which is to take all of these aspects and give them characters. Like, for example, the aspect of beauty you could represent as Aphrodite. So you can give people puzzles to solve, koans to carry. And you can remember, how does beauty relate to justice? How does Aphrodite relate to Zeus in a story? They don't have a mythology. They just live in a stoic way. They don't have dream analysis. Socrates says, at a fundamental part of the Republic, the only way to overcome your problems is through dream analysis. Because that gives you the content for another thing that he calls philosophical midwifery. Because his mum was a midwife of babies, But Socrates says, I am able to help people give birth to those fundamental beliefs that we are loyal to, that prevents us from taking on new truths, that goes all the way back to caveman days. The thing we've been reading about. The beliefs that block understanding. The fundamental cause of all human problems and suffering is addressed in philosophical midwifery. Now, what's fascinating is the dialectic here applies to all of them. How do you get the meaning and providence from your dreams? You better record your dreams as soon as you wake up, and then you review them through applying the dialectic. How do you structure your mythology stories? How do you write a badass episode of Star Trek? Following the structure of the dialectic. Midwifery, the structure and stages human beings go through as they examine their false beliefs that cause their problems. The dialectic. What do you know? What's the method that Diotima uses? What's the structure that Parmenides uses? The dialectic. So all of this is the dialectic, and that's what we just read. Plato said, says Socrates in this book, that the dialectic was the gift of the gods from Prometheus, which is mythology. Prometheus, from which all of the other arts derive. These four are the highest four. But all the other ones, like music and geometry, flow from this. There's a challenge. If you have another thing that you're interested in, like for me it's music, can you find the structure of the dialectic within it, within the circle of fifth? So, this use of the dialectic in this highest way to remove human problems, the most important human activity that we all need to face, which is why we still have problems in the world. We're not doing enough of this. How we do dream analysis to surface our guidance. Very interesting breakdown on thought here in a perspective I've not considered before. Oh, great. You came to the right place. So dream analysis, your dream master is your guide. Help you in midwifery and philosophy. And the freedom that you have from your beliefs allows you the freedom to pursue the truth in philosophy. So those four aspects, which again, the dialectic has four categories. Definition, the subject in relation to itself, the subject in relation to others, demonstration, others back, others to other others. So like you want to define what you do, I'm just going to use a mundane example. Tell me what a bike is. Well, you probably want to talk about what it is itself. And then you want to tell me how it functions. And then you want to tell me how we can use that functioning. And then after all that, you probably want to talk about how then you relate back. Take care of your bike. Keep your bike locked up. Conclusion. Definition, demonstration, division, conclusion. Which is interesting because that aligns with 1, 2, 3, 4 possible categories of ways of thinking about reality, and 4 if you deny that bikes exist. So that's our structure of the Parmenides. Any thoughts on individuals who dream rarely and how to about this interpretation in this context? Good question. Practice. Have an audio recording app on your phone. As soon as you wake up, start talking. Whatever you remember, words, characters, drama, objects, states of mind, whatever you remember. Then leave it. Later on in the day, record it from memory, type it up from memory. Then translate the audio and compare how your memory has changed through the day. That'll give you some clues. And it will also highlight the significance of recording it straight away. Next, well, you got to unpack it. It's not literal. The way of unpacking our dreams is, however far you are in learning the dialectic, try and apply it as best you can to your dreams. We don't have a book on dream analysis yet. When Pierre Grimes, he wrote the book on midwifery, he said before he passed away, that's your job. We have to write that book. Because this whole game, the dialectic, this is called the new art that we have discovered here, philia dianoia, the love of understanding. Why? Well, philosophy is the love of wisdom. We also have mythology, dream analysis, and midwifery. All of which is the dialectic, all of which is philia dianoia. So we can conclude the fundamental activity and the purpose for our lives as human beings, between nature and the divine, between the natural world and the intelligible world, is to master the art of philia dianoia. Not as a matter of opinion or perspective, but as a rational and provable fact. You can prove this for yourself, and you're supposed to. You know, just believe there is a realm of pure being. You want to go to the party and have fun yourself. You don't want to believe that there's a potential to solve your problems with midwifery. You have a responsibility to go through it yourself and clear up the causes of your problems and injustice. So that's understanding is verifiable, unlike belief, which is just nonsense. So that's Socrates. This tradition, this whole tradition, because we don't have mythology, dream analysis, and midwifery from Plato. This whole tradition is also called the Hellenic tradition. So there was Diotima, there was Parmenides, and there was a whole bunch of people. That's the Hellenic tradition. Now, what we're reading in the text is, after a new truth is introduced, certain things can happen. One of the things that can happen is the counterattack. We murdered Socrates. Our prejudice against the new truth that he was laying out for us, even though there are lots of other people around that he learned from, he was very fortunate in that way, we killed him for being a gift of the gods, giving us what we need. We killed him. We are fucking savages. Not only did we kill the guy, let's move over here. We killed the guy in front of his student Plato when Plato was in his 20s. Imagine that. Oh, you gotta jump. Okay. I'm going to finish the lineage because it's relevant, but maybe you can check into the VOD after. Socrates gave us this Hellenic tradition, but we killed him. So those aspects, so Socrates said in the Phaedo, he didn't get time to do his mythology. So we don't have that. Awesome. And you can get the videos on YouTube or on our Twitch VOD. Socrates talked about dream analysis, and he talked about philosophical midwifery, but these are things that are associated with Homer. The Iliad is a story of Achilles going through dream analysis and midwifery to solve his problems. But the official reason we murdered him in front of his student Plato is because he didn't agree with the government's interpretations of Homer. So because Socrates didn't write anything down, That means we had to get his teaching from Plato. Who saw his beloved teacher murdered because of Homer. So Plato chose not to talk about dream analysis, not to do midwifery. Plus, he was too young to have gone through philosophical midwifery completely himself. So all we have is the philosophy aspect of Philodianoia. And even that we haven't been able to read until recently because of all of the past translators. Philosophy. We have that. We have that. So we have one of the four. Plato taught Aristotle, who had a problem that Plato wasn't able to address through philosophical midwifery, and that problem prevented Aristotle from having philosophy. So we lost philosophy. And he taught Alexander the Great, and that became the Roman lineage, dividing us from the Hellenic or Greek. So that's where we are today. This is modernism. Aristotle, no philosophy. Because, well, who were the midwives around? Not Plato. We killed his teacher, didn't we? The Roman tradition, or the modern tradition, without philosophy, without dream analysis, without midwifery, and without mythology. That's our current tradition. That's why we have our problems. That's why we've been fighting barbarians since the Roman times. We call them MAGA today, and the Zionists today, and the Nazis today, but we're still fighting Nazis, even today. We have to, that's also called materialism. Believing that the world is just physical. No midwifery means we can't solve problems. No philosophy is we can't seek the truth of our purpose. No dream analysis means we have no guide for both. And no mythology means we can't share it. Fate. Leading to suffering, individually and collectively, and our extinction. This is our course. Within the Roman, modern, or materialistic tradition, without the four aspects fundamental for solving problems and understanding the truth, we are on a crash course for extinction. Or, as it said in the text, we are still in the natural world of caveman times. Our job in the text we're reading is to atone for our sins. No, that's the wrong way of putting it. That's what Jesus might say, is to transition from this back to the Hellenic or Greek tradition and pick up Philodianoia. Our Philodianoia can lead us not from fate to suffering to extinction, but to our destiny. Escape fate and reach our destiny, our highest purpose, the reason we're here. And because it's the destiny of everyone, all life, we can say it's the meaning of life, the reason we're here. Destiny of man is what we call it, which is what we've been asking. The question on the table in the book is, what's the destiny of man? And how many different interpretations of that can there be? The destiny of man. Another way of saying that is the meaning of life. What's our job? Pray. And it seems that Socrates is saying he was chosen by the gods to introduce this or keep this tradition alive. And so I would say, well, I must have been picked by the gods to be a more popular Twitch streamer than Asmon, Gold, and Hassan Piker. Because one of the aspects is mythology. Sharing it. Making a kick-ass Twitch stream about it. So we can solve problems. And usher in a new age. The destiny of man. Another way we can understand that. We go back and pick up where we left off when we murdered Socrates. Do whatever it is we need to do to atone for killing a gift from the gods. Pick up the Greek Hellenic tradition. Pick up the love of understanding once more. And develop a new way of being for everyone. And now in the first chapter of the Philosophical Midwifery book, the person who rediscovered philosophical midwifery, dream analysis, philosophy, and mythology, is the author of the book we're reading. So, the turning point has been the thing that has allowed us to turn around our path of fate to extinction and perpetual suffering, or to the, genocide and wealth inequality and all that. The thing that has allowed us to change his lineage from Diotima, Parmenides, into Socrates, into Plato, into the Romans, Alexander the Great, and all of those people, and Emperor Justinian, who shut down the academy and killed the philosophers and said, hey, no understanding for you humans, you just have to believe what we say. What are we digging into? Oh, you're right at the tail end of a complete synopsis. So make sure you go back and review this VOD, Barbariba. That was a good one. Good question. Good question from a chatter that triggered a really good reflection. You'll dig this summary. The person who turned us around from our fate or inevitable extinction by rediscovering, all four, because he rediscovered midwifery as a psychotherapist dealing with alcoholics and things. Formalized his understanding. It's the only form of psychotherapy that's been empirically verified. He met Albert Ellis, who was the guy who created cognitive behavioral therapy, and said, hey, stop lying, tell the truth, all problems are solvable. And Albert Ellis went, yikes, and ran away. Rediscovering, and then he realized, dream analysis, which Socrates talked about in the Republic, but Plato didn't write about because we killed his teacher because of Homer, apparently. And dream analysis was part of Homer, so he didn't want to talk about that, which is completely understandable. Rediscovered dream analysis and midwifery. Did rediscovered philosophy, became an enlightened Buddhist guru as well, because if philosophy is the study of being, then every other spiritual tradition that wants to have enlightenment, well, they'll be benefited. The difference between Eastern spirituality and this is we also have understanding. So normally when you have a problem in your meditation, the guru says, go sit on the mat more. Whereas with philosophy, we can understand where your problem is, guide your reflection, overcome it with midwifery, and also use philosophy to guide you to higher states of being. But he was doing that without even knowing it, and there was a Buddhist guru who saw him doing that and said, "Hey, you're doing my job." And he appointed him Buddha, the next in line to be Buddha of the Korean lineage. Only time a white guy has had that title. So rediscovering philosophy, and he also midwifed the Juan Balboa, who has given us the actual translation so we can rediscover philosophy for ourselves. That's the translation that we read here. If you're not doing the Balboa translation, you're not really doing philosophy, sorry to say. I'm not sorry. I'm going to say it with my whole chest. If you ain't doing Balboa, you ain't reading the Greek. You ain't doing philosophy. And of course, unlike Socrates, he wrote mythology. That's what we're doing now. We're reading Jesus and Socrates, the mythology. So really, the gift to humanity has been Pierre Grimes, who rediscovered the four aspects of Philodainoia, allowing us to do what we need to do to pick up where we left off when we killed Socrates, pick up the Greek tradition, drop the Roman tradition, the modernism, materialism, be able to finally address problems, prevent our suffering and extinction, and reach our destiny, which is an embracing of a new way of being called love of understanding, Philodainoia. And as this is the destiny not just of one person, of all people, and it's exactly what we can only do here, the meaning of life. Hooray.
Imagine people changing their positions and improving for the better.
We can change our position and improve for the better, like the Oracle says.
You've been a bad little girl. The more holes, the better.
The more holes, the better, says Emma.
And I find that very entertaining.
And R.M. Brown finds it entertaining. So, good question, worth reviewing, because in that mythology from Mr. Grimes, Dr. Grimes, we have this. We want to know if what is the destiny of man? We've just had a review of. If we share it, will the many reject it? I don't believe that's the destiny of man. I think the destiny of man is getting rich and having 4 Bugattis. Is that because people return to the darkness of shadowy belief that we address in midwifery? And if they're not doing midwifery, they will make this retreat. Because taking on early beliefs make it difficult to see what's there to be seen. Can we complete that journey without seeking excellence? And now we see in the dialogue itself fair and balanced representation of the whole and the parts. Whether it's one or many, rejected by the many. Is there a likeness and unlikeness? So these are the fundamental self-logos terms of the Parmenides. The parts of the dialectic being used to explore the most important question. What is the destiny of man, and what are the different ways people can misrepresent it or misinterpret it? And what's the cause of that interpretation? Is there a finite number of interpretations? And therefore an order in reasoning? Jesus said, is there a model that you're pointing to that allows you to get that order? And Socrates says, oh, you know what? You want the model? Well, Plato calls it the dialectic. That's the gift. the structure of dianoia, understanding. And man's predicament is that we are caught between the extremes of our barbaric caveman ancestry and the destiny of man. Or being part of nature and the intelligible. And Socrates says, okay, whole and part, like and unlike, is there a sameness and difference? Is there a fundamental difference between you and I? That can't be bridged. Now let's talk about what happens when a new truth is introduced. Some people accept it in full and drop the old. Neat. Some reject it totally and keep the old. A fierce loyalty to the old. Fierce. People who are loyal to beliefs, what do they end up doing? Genocide, crusades, wealth inequality, fascism, capitalism, sexism. They are the savages within us. There are those who are wolves in sheep's clothing, like Mr. Peterson, as we got from chat. I'm not going to hit the button. Yes, I will.
Keep that little.
Hi.
There we go. Who claim to speak for the new, but really they're replacing the new with the old. Their own core beliefs are threatened. They claim to know more about science, when really they're just doing their racist bullshit. Wolves in sheep's clothing. Everyone who's been on Joe Rogan in the last few years. Or anyone who's ever been on Fox News ever. That's where we are. So, that review might be helpful in our continual reading. Alright. So, 3 kinds of interpreters so far. Lastly, there are those who apply the new to support the weaknesses in their old systems of belief. Maybe this is the old, we realize that it's not good to treat women like cattle anymore, like we did in Christianity or other Abrahamic religions. Yeah. Oh, that's okay. Let's change the unchangeable word of God a little bit. And, not treat women as cattle. That's one way of going. Apply a new support to the weaknesses perceived in their old system of belief. These can be said to have a primary interest in saving. We see that too in midwifery, trying to save our beliefs. Oh, did my parents really crush me in that way? Oh, well, no, actually, they were really busy at work and blah, 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 blah. Primary interested in saving their core beliefs. We call that putting patches on an old garment. Green. How are we for time? Keep going. Or we can say, how are we for recording as well? Okay. Or we can say that this last group applies a metaphysical structure to their primal core beliefs to revitalize their old beliefs. We can say they rationalize the past system by finding analogies and parallels between the old and the new. That sounds like a Peterson thing to do as well, right? Yes. Actually, when you think about the story of Adam and Eve, and if you think about Cain and Abel, actually you can see science in there, kind of. The DNA structure of the snake and the serpent in the Garden of Eden, that's like science. So, that's a question we have now. What category is Mr. Peterson? Dr. Peterson, apparently. Okay. rationalize the past system by finding analogies and parallels between the old and the new. That's what they're up to. A metaphysical structure to their core beliefs to revitalize their old dumb beliefs. We can say that they function intellectually to convert to reason systems that were non-rational or less rational. We could call them Hellenic saviors of the old through the tools of reason. Why Hellenic saviors? What does that mean? See, we were just saying Hellenism talks about a rational system and dropping the old. Maybe Hellenic saviors as the archetype of the hero, only they're heroically saving what they shouldn't save. Right, convert into reason what is irrational. Let me be a bit cautious because I may need another division. What if we find someone who doesn't fit into any of our groups? What are the groups? Completely accept the old, accept the new, ditch the old. Other extreme, ditch the new, keep the old. Then we have sheep in wolves' clothing, claim to be speaking for the new, but really they're talking about the old again. Right, many of the politicians who claim to be left-wing are actually just conservatives. Wolves in sheep clothing. And then we have the patchwork people who are trying to save their irrational systems by trying to add some rationality into it. Oh, no, it's good to subjugate women, says Christian apologists, because, well, rationally, see, science will say the female brain is smaller. Yes. Thus, slavery is good. Oh, no, we can still blah, 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 blah. Make money off people because being rich is good because of some reason. Now, is there another one? So far we've got 4. Which would be neat because we have 4 categories of the dialectic, so that would fit nicely. We could play the next game of can we fit, because he asked what's the model and he said the dialectic, so can we find those 4 within the dialectic? Or maybe there's more to go. Jesus. Well, I don't know about that last remark of yours, but if you need a 5th or even 6th Socrates, I shall be pleased to grant it. You chose a difficult path. For now, you will need your 4 and maybe 5 explanations instead of looking through the many for the single one that could eliminate all the others. You caught the purpose of this dialectic because identifying proper divisions within an idea makes visible the order behind the diversity. And this makes apparent the rational structure operating within ideas. There's a rational structure operating within ideas? If the divisions also admit of the development of stages within ideas, then it is possible to anticipate and understand the emergence of these divisions within a hierarchy. Hey, welcome, Sas. You are not allowed to lurk until you give me a dancing Moogle. Wow. I need my dancing Moogle fix. Here's my stuffy. My stuffy demands... There we go. He loves it. There we go. Look at her dance. That's what we needed. How's your day going so far, Sus? Oh, so many. Look at that. Look at all of those dancing emojis. Is your day going well? It's okay. Anything interesting happened today? You are heading into summer soon. Yes, I'm gonna have to ditch the tuk-tuk for my backwoods cap again soon. But it's still quite cold over here. My day is okay. I had an unpleasant experience with this guy I went to the gym with. I go to the gym quite early in the morning to get away from the many. And I listen to music. There's a jukebox there, you can play your own music. And there's a guy there who's been going to the gym for about 1.5 years alongside me. And for the first time, I waved to him this morning, I said hello. And he talked to me for the first time. I thought, oh, that's neat. We've been gymming together for a couple of years. We're going to have a conversation. And he was just a bully. I don't like your music. Like, what? Just cut it out, bro. Cut out what? My music? This is good music. And I was like, what? Just play neutral music. What? Just don't select songs. Let it be neutral. And I said, what? You mean the corporate, capitalist, AI-generated slop that's fed to us? That's not good. I agree, it's not good. Do you have any suggestions? Do you not like a particular song? Do you want to... You know that you can suggest songs of your own. It's a playlist. No, man, just don't do it. Wear headphones. So, that was kind of shitty. I thought, oh, it could have been a positive experience. But now this guy wants to make my experience a negative one. He was there with a friend, so I think his idea of what it means to be a Noah is ganging up and bullying people. DJ Awakening, yeah. Which is funny because then somebody came into the gym who has already commented that she likes it when I'm selecting songs. It's like, hey, I like when you're playing DJ. Like, oh, that's interesting. The exact song that you commented on you really liked, that guy said he hated. And he said he didn't make any requests, he made some demands. I demand you don't have music. I demand you listen to headphones. Well, that's not very fair. You can request something or you can... No, just do what I say. So yeah, there's a lot of thug-ish people in Australia. It's a very common way of being tied to... they call it tall poppy syndrome in Australia. I think in America you call it crabs in a crate. When someone is having fun or doing well or enjoying themselves, it's much easier to just shit on that person and crush that person's good time. Doesn't take any understanding, doesn't take any knowledge, doesn't take any wisdom, doesn't take any care, doesn't take any thought. You are simply imitating your old beliefs, and you are a Hellenic savior of the same pathologos way of being treated when you were having fun. That becomes the human model for strength or goodness or knowingness. Now we learn about that in midwifery, but still sadly, I don't have 100,000 followers like Hassan Piker or Asmund Gold. So it's a new way of being that hasn't disseminated into the public yet. So the danger of doing philosophy or having fun or making music is you can trigger the parental response they had when they were having fun, they were thinking for themselves, they were pursuing their high goals, or they were pursuing something they love, and they will react as their parents reacted to them. Trump does the same to black people. Netanyahu does the same to the Palestinians. The billionaires do the same to the poor. The cruelty is the point. It's easy to imitate cruelty because it takes no work. It's easy to kick over a sandcastle than it is to make one. That's been my life, actually. Discovering the significance of understanding, discovering philosophical midwifery, discovering that you can solve problems and you can reach higher states of excellence. Yeah, discovering all these things, my first reaction was, well, let's share it with the world. We can become better, we can solve human problems, we can reach excellence. A girl liked your music, who cares what a musclehead thinks? That's true. See, that would have been a witty response Here I am trying to reason with a musclehead and a bully. But yeah, so my question was, did I approach that situation with fairness? Did I try and introduce too much reason? Should I have just made a funny remark like that and just gotten out of there? I think that would have been the right response. Was my attempts to introduce reason and reflection and understanding and coming to a mutual solution as equals, was that actually unjust because he didn't have the capacity for that, because he spent his whole life imitating his parents? Yeah. Well, there's like a jukebox. He could have headphones on. He said, you put your headphones on. I said, well, why don't you put yours on? Because I got to talk to people. Very irrational, very stupid. People come at you a certain way, expect certain results back. Yeah, I think so. I think he wasn't interested in understanding. Like when I waved to him in the morning, he had that smile like, oh, I'm planning something. So yeah. That would have been the best response, pointed at his way of being. That's an interesting way of being. It sounds like you're only interested in causing conflict. Who are you imitating? That's enough. No more questions. Come back when you tell me who that state of mind is, and then we can talk more. Otherwise, go lift your weights. You thug. Maybe not thug. Maybe that would be a provoking a fight that he was looking for. But yeah, kind of shit that, like, my happy place has got a bit of a cloud of negativity, but it's what you get when you live in Australia. I've been thinking about what we talked about last time, Sus. Yeah, you know what? I listen to either a podcast, or a Twitch stream, really, or philosophy lectures when I'm in the gym. So I am killing 3 birds with 1 stone. I'm keeping in shape, learning about philosophy, and learning new songs that I can play for other people. Because I often listen to the songs that I'm learning or I'm playing. But last time we were talking about being in California and how dangerous being in America and how dangerous it is, and how you're saying tourism is falling out. Yeah. Well, this is interesting because that technique I developed when I was early in my midwifery journey. My parental teaching was no philosophy. In fact, anti-philosophy, anti-logos is one of the features of the pathologos. So by doing something practical, I was appeasing the pathologos voice while actually doing the thing that was taboo. I was learning philosophy, learning how to become rational, learning how to challenge the family sick way of being. So I was kind of tricking my pathologos for a time, but then it became fun, especially when I found some streamers that were really awesome. But yeah, I was saying, I wouldn't want to come to America right now, given the state of fascism and ICE and the concentration camps and stuff. And the complete irrationality of the government. But I was thinking, actually, in my experience, the people who are more open to this game, who would be fellow journeyers on this game of philosophy, have been Americans. Which is interesting. And when I was in California, she wasn't flirting. In fact, I had to be very careful I met her again this morning. I said, hey, you know that song we were talking about? Because I actually, there's another version of that song that she told me to look up, and I did, and it was a cool cover. I said, I looked at that cover. But it was funny, that song you were telling me about, when it was playing, this other guy who's over there on that treadmill, was a real prick about it. But she came in with her husband today. So I had to be careful not to talk for too long, because some people can get funny about that. You can't talk to a girl as a friend without it being always. So yeah, she's a lovely lady, and she likes she said, I love your style of music. If you're the DJ, I like it's way better. So I had to mention, it was good that she came in. It's like, oh, thank goodness you said something positive, because that guy was being bastard. But I was thinking about how when I was in California, studying with Pierre, the guy who wrote this book and the midwifery book, I found that there were a lot more people who were the opposite. There are people who were very interested in talking to me. I've learned all this on my own in Australia, pretty much. So when I came over to America as a strange Australian dude, able to do philosophical midwifery that Pierre Grimes was doing with the people in California, a lot of people were really excited. Like, were buying me lunch. Hey, I'll buy you lunch if you midwife my dream. Like, sure. Win-win for me.
It's a win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win. And yeah, it was neat. Like, spending my life in Australia, trying my best to share what's most important, the literal meaning of life, what we are here to do as human beings, develop from caveman belief into understanding, allowing us to solve problems and reach the intelligible. Sharing that with people, I got hated by everyone. I got attacked by everyone. And I was so confused. But what we've just read is there is a fierce loyalty to our old beliefs. Where is the word? We just read the word. I can't find it here. It's here somewhere. Yes, fiercely loyal to the old. Yeah. It was funny when I went over there, having learnt midwifery kind of on my own, like just through email correspondence with Pierre and reading the book, and finding people here and there to go through it with. Yeah, it's open-minded. It's really fantastic. I really loved the energy of California. And and the way of being of the people there was much better than Australia. So here I was, some weird speaking Australian bloke, meeting all of these philosophers who have been studying with Pierre for like 20, 30, 40 years. And they kind of looked at me like I was some sort of zoo animal. Who is this strange guy with this strange accent? He looks different than us. He sounds different than us, but he can do what Pierre can do? That's weird. And a lot of them, some of them were weird about it. They didn't like that someone else can do what their beloved teacher can do. And there's all that, loyalty to group dynamics for some of the older ones. But a lot of the people, the younger ones, loved it. Yeah, the older ones didn't like it so much, but the younger ones were loving it, and they were buying me lunch, and I got to practice my art. I got to practice dream analysis and midwifery, which I love. I got to discuss philosophy with people. How do we understand the text? What puzzles have you seen in the text? All of the things I was trying to do on my own, and if I tried to share it with other people, I'd get attacked or threatened or all sorts of crazy shit. All of this prejudice against someone just trying to help. It was really confusing, and it was really, really, it's a terrible time in my life for a few years. In Australia, but in California, it was great. See, I think Americans call it crabs in a crate. When somebody starts to do well, some crabs pull the other crab down. But in Australia, we call it tall poppy syndrome. If you start to be better or get better or improve, you don't get pulled down into the crate, you get your head chopped off. So the cultural pathologos, or the milieu in Australia against intellectual development and becoming better, is terrible compared to America. In fact, in Australia, we used to say, back in the 90s, they would say, all crime is because of the Yankees. And whenever an Australian actor went over to America and became a celebrity, no one in Australia bought it. You, Nicole Kidman, Hugh Jackman, you are liars. We don't trust you. You can't be good. You've just tricked all the Yankees. You've just tricked all those Americans. we're not buying it. There's a really, the strength of the Australian cultural pathologos is huge. Probably one of the worst, I'd say. Question religion are very, very intimidating, especially for older generations. Yeah. But, yeah, it's like Yankees. We're the Aussies. The New Zealanders are the Kiwis, and you guys are the Yankees. I think has a different meaning for you guys. The Yanks. But because our cultural pathologos is so strong in Australia, perhaps because we're a prison colony and prisoners are told you can never be better, know your place. Yeah, Kiwis, cute term. But in America, they embrace exceptionalism. They allow people to be good. They love celebrities, whereas here we don't trust celebrities. Aussies are just Aussies, yeah. So I was in California and I was having a great time and it was fantastic. This was back before Trump as well, so it wasn't. Things got really bad when Trump got in, but back before then it was like a utopia for me. Anyway, so I'm wandering around with Pierre Grimes in California. I went to a few of his classes. Oh, that was amazing. It's amazing to see an enlightened guru, a master of philosophy, someone who rediscovered all of the logos, wrote the book on midwifery, rediscovered the Hellenic tradition on his own, was one of the most decorated war heroes of all time, turned major battles that helped us stop the Nazis. This guy, the smartest man probably ever and wisest, literally appointed Buddha, the next in line, the Dharma successorship of the Korean Buddhist line, was standing in front of a class of 19 and 20-year-old American kids, and they weren't paying attention. They were all talking about how they're only at college to make money, and they're forced to take a philosophy class as part of their business class because, capitalism is unethical, so they have to take an ethics class. And here I was sitting at the back, having spent all my money to get there, like in heaven, like studying from the man himself, and all of these like American kids talking and joking and not listening. The kid next to me was drawing. Anyway, we were doing the symposium and he literally had written the meaning of life on the board. I turned to the guy next to me and I say, hey, you know how people want to know the meaning of life, right? He goes, what? Oh, yeah, I guess. No, not I guess. Isn't that like a staple in all movies? We all want to know the meaning of life. But we apparently don't know, or we can't know. But the ultimate holy grail is to find the meaning of life? Oh yeah, I guess. It's written on the board. Don't you want to look up? He goes, oh yeah, I don't know much about philosophy. Like, that's the meaning of life, kid. Do you know who your teacher is? Do you know who Dr. Pierre Grimes is? A master of philosophy, rediscovering philosophy, rediscovering philosophical midwifery, rediscovering dream analysis, an enlightened Buddhist mystic. You can't get a more complete human being. And he's written in black and white on the board the meaning of life. Anyway, lots of little moments like that. I'm getting on a tangent. There are lots of really funny little moments like that blew my mind. But anyway, so I'm after a day like this, I'm walking to the car with Pierre. Yeah, they're focused on other things. He was focused on snowboarding. Many of the other kids were focused on making money. It's so funny. Like, oh, I'm just here to get rich, bro. I'm going to be a business bro. Anyway, so I'm walking to the car. Pierre's giving me a ride. He's in like his 80s or 90s and he's still driving around. He's still sharp as a tack. Like, his mind never deteriorated. Yeah, oh, that's neat. So I'm walking to the car with him Oh, it's an aren't you very sweet? Thank you. Oh, and I get a little dancing cow. So he's driving me in his car. It's this old brown, long car. He actually lent it to me for a while when I was there. Anyway, we're walking to his car, and he turns to me and he goes, "What do you make of California, of being here?" It's fantastic. What do you mean? Well, there are people here that I can talk about the things I most want to talk about with. I've never had that in Australia. I've tried talking to everyone, which was a disaster, by the way. I don't recommend that. It's, oh, really? Say more. The people here are interested in midwifery. They're interested in dream analysis. They value that I can do it. This one kid actually gave me a dream to do for his, he's like, oh, I don't know how old he is. He was at the college as well. It's like, oh, let's do dream. I'll buy you lunch and do dream analysis with me. And we went through it. It went pretty well. And at the end, he goes, I go, why are you looking at me like that for? I actually gave the same dream to Pierre Grimes, like the master. I'm like, oh, did you? Was it good? How did that go? Well, actually, he pointed to the same thing you pointed to, but he took it on the other way. You did the second thing, and the two come together. So I'm really impressed. I was like, oh, okay, I'm glad you got insight. And that was all I thought of it. Then later on, a couple of days later, Pierre goes, oh, how's your dream analysis going? Oh, it's going pretty well. I had this talk with this kid. He goes, what do you think was going on? And I said, oh, it was cool. Like, it sounded like he gave you the same dream and you helped him see certain things about his pathologos. That was a kind of preparatory step, prepared him to be able to see this deeper thing that we were able to see in the dream. So it was kind of like you gave me an alley-oop and I slam dunked it. And he goes, yes, that's one way of looking at it. I'm like, oh, what do you mean? Is there another way? And he goes, don't worry about it. And then I later realized the kid was testing me. I was like, oh, this is the best game. This is like, even if you don't completely understand the meaning of your dreams, you'll get another dream tomorrow and it will help you. It's only a win-win. It's a win-win. So there are lots of little stories like that. He was saying, oh, does he, like he was testing me. And Pierre knew he was testing me. I was so naive. I don't care. You either get benefit of it or you get another dream tomorrow and you try again. It's the best game in town. Anyway, so we're walking back to the car and he goes, what do you make of California? And I said, these people love it. They want to do the thing I want to do. They want to talk about the things I want to do. It's like I can actually do my work here. Never had that in Australia. And he goes, oh, maybe you should live here then. And that's all he said about it. We walked to the car and I was like, well, hang on, what? Live here? How? I don't have a job here. I'm on a travel visa, so I can only stay 3 months at a time. That's all he said. So yesterday, you and I were talking about how the tourism has gone under in Las Vegas. And I said, well, I wouldn't want to go there right now. But I've been thinking about it since, and I'm changing my mind. I think I would live in California, I think. Because the way of being over there, and I don't know if it's something to do with the fault lines and the spiritual energy of the place, or if it's got to do with the cultural way of being where they celebrate exceptionalism. They love celebrities. They like when you go to a restaurant, everyone's complimenting you. Whereas here, it's the opposite. People insult people. Well, that's how you show. You call people a C word. That's how you show you love them. It's like weird. I don't like that at all. But yeah, I was able to share this, the love of understanding, with people who would appreciate it and would benefit from it in California for that cultural milieu reason, spiritual fault lines, Or maybe because Pierre had spent his life there, maybe he added to the spiritual energy. I don't know. I don't know the reason, but I think I would live there. And I think Pierre was giving me a bit of a guidance through time. Yes, that's the thing. That's the thing. If it gets better, then definitely consider living here. I'd live in California, I think. But that's the other part of the game. California is nice. Beaches won't kill you. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of crazy people there. I mean, there's crazy people everywhere, but I think you have to take that take the up with the down. But also, I think the way in which America turns it around is the same thing we're doing here. The same way we turn ourselves around through the love of understanding, Philodianoia, and through philosophical midwifery. We don't, like, for example, yes, the homeless situation, there's extreme wealth inequality in America. It's getting that way here. We're following the lead. We're getting ripped off big time. But Pierre said himself on one of the last interviews he did before he passed away on Jeffrey Mishlov's New Thinking Aloud, he said, look, as I'm saying, he is a war hero. He was one of the key units that stopped Hitler. And he said, hey, when we were fighting the Nazis, we didn't defeat them. They gave up. The root cause behind Nazism is, we've been talking about cultural milieu pathologos, the cultural pathologos, tall poppy syndrome in Australia. The German one is duty above all else. The German cultural belief that was one of the root causes of Nazism. There's always hire for philosophy teachers. Oh yeah. Maybe I'll get a philosophy job, or maybe a music job. I'll let you know when I'm streaming music on Twitch. It'll be very, very soon, I promise. The root cause behind the fervent Nazi allegiance to Hitler was a German pathologos belief called duty above all else. So when they surrendered, it was because Hitler said, your duty is done for now. In other words, they surrendered out of duty to the leader, meaning they still have the root problem that causes Nazism. In other words, we didn't solve the problem, which is why America and other places in Germany, other places around the world, still have Nazis. We haven't learned how to address the fundamental causes behind global problems, which is philosophical midwifery and dream analysis. That's how you solve the problems. It sounds weird that we have a guide that communicates to us through our dreams. It sounds weird that there is a root belief that can be solved in midwifery, but it's still true. Just because it feels weird doesn't mean it's not true. So the way that America and all other places can turn it around and make it a good place to live in, a safe place to live in, a place that attracts philosophers like this guy, is by enough people demanding a mastery of philosophical midwifery and dream analysis, a mastery of the dialectic, love of understanding, from every single person in a leadership position. And if you're in a leadership position, televise your midwife talks every morning. Put it on one of those TV networks that are boring. What do you call them? Like those boring ones that have like political meetings and stuff on it. Those TV networks, those cable networks. Put them on YouTube and put them on cable access or something. Just be the next governor of California. Ugh. Well, maybe not me, but maybe someone from our chat who can master the dialectic. And we will say, hey, we promise not to kill you like we did Socrates. Because we know that when a new truth is introduced, there are different ways of reacting to it. That's where we are in the book. There are some people who accept the new and get rid of the old. Some people who counterattack against the new. Some people who claim to be doing the new, but they're not really doing dream analysis and midwifery. They're just pretending because they want to be a politician. Or there are some that try and patchwork their old beliefs. We can keep the democratic system and rich. We can keep the billionaires and we can keep the fascism, but we can do a little bit of midwifery. These are all going to be ways of interpreting. Give that guy on the gym something to talk about. Yeah. So yeah, on C-SPAN, every political leader, but in every school before morning tea time, midwifery and dream analysis. If our dream master is our guide, necessary guide, and if our dreams are what gives us the important guidance and the clues that we will miss because we have blind spots, that's part of having a problem, then dream analysis at school before morning tea time. Everyone. Starting from preschool. And after morning tea, midwifery. Learn the art of midwifery. After lunch, let's get into the symposium, do some philosophy. And in the afternoon, music, geometry, anything else. But absolutely necessary for any political leaders. Because that's where we get providence. And a leader is supposed to be taking advice from the best advisors. The best advisor is providence, the logos. Americas are weird to define because it's just like people want to be seen, hug, and felt. Oh. Deep down, we're a bunch of softies. Oh, well, I'm giving you an e-hug right now. Emotional and passionate population. That's nice. Yeah, I like that too. Australia is a bit opposite. A bit standoffish. Still, we're more cavemen than you guys are. We're a bit earlier in our evolution. We're a prison population of England after all. But yeah, so I wanted to share that with you because I had been thinking about our conversation yesterday and I think, no, I'd go there. I'd live there. And hug all the Americans, hug all the Yankees. I'm going to turn on my fan. I think you'd love. We say how we feel, at least it's a gateway. Yeah, that's fantastic. Can't be doing midwifery unless you're talking about your states of mind, feelings. I think you'd love USA when it's not crazy. I think so too. So, Sus, get out there, start spreading the word about midwifery so that you can make your country less crazy so we can come and hang out and have lunch and do dream analysis. I hope that for you. Oh, thank you so much. You love Spanish people. I did. When I was there, I did love the Mexican people that I met. They're very cool, very nice, very fun. Love to play guitar as well. My house is your house. You're in Las Vegas, right? Aye, Captain, yes. Go de-pathologos your country. Go, decrazify the crazies. Speaking of decrazifying, we are reading the book where we are looking at conversation between Jesus and Socrates, and they want to see if there is a certain number of ways. Colorado. Oh, cool. Certain number of ways of interpreting truth. And Jesus asked Socrates, do you have a model? In the same way we often use dialectic as a model, like in the model of the hypotheses of Parmenides, or the model we use in midwifery, or the model we use to direct our questions in dream analysis. Mountains and weed. I don't smoke weed, but it's here. Yeah, it's everywhere over there. Every shop sells weed. Almost. And Socrates says, yeah. And flavored air. Oh yeah, vapes. You a big vape smoker? Oh, hiking places that have air bars. That's interesting. That sounds like fun. That sounds like a lot of fun. Imagine going on a hike with a group of philosophers discussing the symposium or discussing the Republic or something like that. That'd be neat. So by the way, Jesus said, is there a model that you're using that we can see how many different ways of interpreting something there is? Socrates says it's called the dialectic. We're at a high altitude. Oh, no vapes, just high altitude. Gotcha. And so far we've got air bars where people get oxygen. Oh, that's interesting. You can accept it and drop the old, number one, right here. You can hear the new truth and reject it and be fiercely loyal to the old. That's most Australians. Fiercely loyal to the old. The third group takes the appearance of accepting the new, but they secretly substitute their own alien system while claiming that a higher truth guides them. Wolves in sheep's clothing. The fourth way of interpreting a new truth is to just add that new system as support for the old system. So support the weaknesses of your old system. The perceived weaknesses. So that's by like putting patches of an old garment, by finding analogies and parallels between the old and the new. The people, there's a new scientific discovery and they try and make it like, oh, that's like when Jesus said, do this. Or that's like, the double helix, that's like the story of the serpent in the Garden of Eden, says Jordan Peterson. They are trying to use the tools of reason to save their own false beliefs. That's very much what Jordan Peterson does. That's his whole thing. Look at me being able to use reason and analogy to justify my old beliefs that are racist and sexist and so on. Now, Socrates says there might be some more categories. Let's jump in. Jesus was looking for a single one, but maybe there's many. Socrates says, you caught the purpose of this dialectic, Jesus, because identifying proper divisions within an idea makes visible the order behind the diversity. And this makes apparent the rational structure operating within ideas. If the division also admit of the development of stages within an idea, then it's possible to anticipate and understand the emergence of these divisions within a hierarchy. This is it. So not only are we looking for the divisions, but we can say that they can be ranked And they might even be processes of development. Maybe you start fiercely loyal to the old, then you pretend to accept the new as a wolf in sheep's clothing. Then you might be like, oh, okay, I'm just going to take a bit of the new and patch the old. Just like we've been talking about in the Parmenides. The first hypothesis of Parmenides here, he says, hey, Socrates, he meets Socrates when Socrates was about 19. He said, hey, Socrates, you need to learn the dialectic. That's the way of reaching truth through understanding and facilitating experience. Socrates says, hey, dialectic, that sounds tricky. Can you give me an example? Then he uses the dialectic to give the first hypothesis. My hypothesis about myself from myself. This is what the self is, says Parmenides. Beyond existence. The cause of existence. Transcending even existence. The person he's walking through this dialectic is a young Aristoteles, the youngest person there. He says, I don't think that's likely. And then Parmenides goes, okay, I'm not going to midwife you or do dream analysis with you. Instead, I'm going to outline 1, 2, 3, 4 possible theories or ways of understanding the self. If you think the self exists, remember, the self here is beyond existence. And I'm also going to go through the other 4 possible ways of thinking about yourself and the world if you don't think there is such a thing as a realm of being or the self that exists. Defined in the second, the brilliant light of pure being. Not the world of becoming, but the cause of it, the realm of being. That's the second hypothesis. And that's enlightenment for the Taoists, which has that symbol. So here we have the dialectic used to create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 categories with a 9th one, the first sitting on top, that is hierarchically arranged, that can therefore be a paradigm for human beings' development. Human beings can be said to go through these 8 levels of development, reaching the last, the 9th. For example, the bottom is the worst level of thinking. You don't think there's a self that exists, but you don't even think there's a physical world that exists. That's nihilism. That's the lowest way of thinking and the lowest way of feeling. The lowest state of mind. So materialism, socialism even, all of the ways of thinking that do not allow for there to be an existing realm of being, that's here. Because the dialectic has definition, demonstration, division, and conclusion, but you do it for any subject. So in the symposium, we're going to be exploring beauty. Can we give a definition of beauty? Can we see how beauty functions? Can we see the effect of that functioning on other people? And having been affected, how do people then themselves relate back to beauty itself? That's the dialectic. That's giving you an understanding of beauty, but also is a kind of preparation to open your mind to the direct experience of beauty itself. But that's not enough. You also have to say, hey, what if beauty doesn't exist? That's the 6th. How would you define beauty if it doesn't exist? You might say, oh, beauty is just an illusion. How does it function? Beauty is just a tool to trick animals to have sex and procreate our genes. That's all it is. It's a trick of nature. How does that illusion affect other people's? You use beauty to sell Coca-Cola products. And then having been affected by that, what do people say about beauty itself? in this universe, this hypothetical universe, in your dialectic, if beauty doesn't exist? People say things like, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, that kind of thing. So that's the complete. The dialectic if it does and if it doesn't. Giving you a complete model. And of course, for you to be able to do this dialectic, it implies there has to be some initial condition giving rise to its existence that transcends the whole system. That's the one self, the first hypothesis. So what? Well, what we are reading here is Socrates is saying, what if there is similarly a structure based on the dialectic, which is what Plato says is the Parmenidean, Prometheus's gift from the gods to humanity, the dialectic. Whoops. What if there can be a similar dialectical structure that can be hierarchically arranged and therefore map human beings' development through these levels, but for ways of interpreting a new truth? So if Socrates is out there saying, hey, here's a new way of being, or Sus becomes the new governor of California and says, look, the only way we can turn this crazy place around is if we adopt a new way of being, not MAGA, which gives people a way of expressing themselves, a way of talking, a way of showing themselves based on racism and fear, based on the pathologos, but the opposite, a way of being based on the love of the logos. That's the only way that we can solve problems, because you solve problems with understanding. That's the logos. It's the only way we can reach our highest excellence, because this development is human development and it's through understanding. So therefore we need a new way of being. But when Sus introduces that new way of being, people will react to it in new ways. Will react to it in different ways. What are going to be the reactions to this necessary new truth that Sus is going to introduce to the Americans? So that I can come over and hang out and have fun. So far we've got 4 on the table. People who accept it completely and drop the old. So if we're using the dialectic as our model, which one of these is accepting it and dropping the old? Well, if it's accepting it, it's probably in this category. That's going to be one of these, I'm guessing. I don't know. It's also got people who reject it completely to hold on to the old. Probably one of these. They want to reject the truth. People who pretend to accept it but really reject it. People who take a little bit of it maybe and use it to add to their old. And Socrates says, that's just 4. There are probably more. So maybe we've got 3 on this side already and 1 on this side. Don't know. That's where we're heading. Let's read for a little bit longer. While I've got coffee in my mug. Dream Symposium. So, if we can, says Socrates in my Deckard Cain voice, you caught the purpose of this dialectic because identifying proper divisions within an idea makes visible the order behind the diversity. And this makes apparent the rational structure operating within ideas. If the divisions also admit for developmental stages within an idea, then it is possible to anticipate and understand the emergence of these divisions within a hierarchy, like we've been talking about. Jesus jumps in. Surely that way of going does have advantages, because the seed of truth will be flourishing along the way of our journey. Difficult it may be, and it may prove worthwhile to keep our minds open to new possibilities. It will also give us an opportunity to see if the way of the dialectic can uncover truths that might be too difficult to reach without it. Surely we both know that our task does present us with a challenge that might just bring to birth what we both love to see. Truth. We both want to see the truth. So, good thing we have this dialectical structure in our back pockets that we've been reviewing today, thanks to our wonderful questions from our chatters, because we might not be able to reach the truth without it. Yes, Socrates, says Jesus, and to share such truth with a lover of truth, like the people in California, or America, its own prized, to share such truth with a lover of truth is its own prized reward. Yay. The benefit you gained from our discussion, Socrates, with your sages here in heaven is obvious. You have a history of sages. We have had prophets. Do you know that we have at least 62 major prophets? And of them, 7 were women? Yes. Prophets played a vital role in your history, Jesus, as did the sages in ours. However, as you consider them now, would you say your prophets escaped the charge of being innovators? Or did they bring new beliefs to support their own core beliefs? Anytime a new idea enters society, the question always arises as to whether or not the new is truly true and can be reconciled with the old. Really, do you recall a ready test for truth of a new idea? The test for truth of these new ideas should be balanced by some test of the old to determine if they are still true. Still, Socrates, I like the name you have given for the old and new. You call what are new those ideas that are new to a culture, since they lacked them before. Listening but dyeing my hair purple. Ah, that sounds fun. You call, Socrates, the traditions and beliefs of prophet belief systems. Sure thing, Jesus, because we could reverse the terms and call the Hellenic tradition the old, and the impact of Judaism upon the Hellenic tradition, the new, couldn't we? However, since we are doing the first comparison, it is not likely we will need the second. So what do we have? Well, I would very much like to understand the struggle those belief systems have had when trying to assimilate or reject the logos of the sages. There we have it. So we've got the old and the new. The old is a system of belief-based thinking, which is consistent with what we're seeing in midwifery. Believing the prophets, people who speak for God, and they speak in terms of belief, not through understanding. They don't even have to show an understanding of what they're talking about. Prophets. And hey, there are even women who are prophets in that tradition, so no need for sexism, out the door. But what we're calling the new is the Hellenic tradition, based on sages. Sages are people who have experienced being, but also through understanding. So they can turn around and communicate that understanding of that hierarchical structure to help people through that journey from the lowest through to the highest, which includes the vision of the intelligible light. That's the second. Includes a development of a relationship through the dialectic and philosophical midwifery. The functioning of that light is the logos and providence, reaching the self. That intelligible structure of our development is called the logos. So Socrates is asking, how well did a belief-based system, the Judaic tradition, how well did it incorporate or assimilate or deal with the logos of the sages? So prophets versus sages, belief versus understanding. The old things that we are fiercely loyal to from caveman times, to the new, a new way of being that will help us escape fate and reach our destiny. That's what we're dealing with. Maybe read a little bit more, why not? Yes. Core beliefs play a major role in framing every thought of the believer. Judaism is many things and takes on many forms, says Jesus. The future shows its newer forms are shaped by history. The spirit of man always finds creative ways to express the divine. The core beliefs can be reflected and modified under the force of the new. Indeed, from the same divine vineyard, old and new wine comes. However, for all the changes, some are always there. So I would say your idea of fundamental core beliefs could be safely held. What the hell does that sentence mean? Okay, beliefs play a major role in framing every thought of a believer. Judaism is many things and takes on many forms. Jesus thinks the future shows its newer forms are shaped by history. The spirit of man always finds creative ways of expressing the divine. The core beliefs can be reflected and modified under the false. So he's trying to modify the old with the new. From the same vineyard, old and new wine come. So he's trying to lump the old and the new together. However, for all the changes, some are always there. So fundamental core beliefs is an idea we can hold on to. What a crazy way of talking. True that is, says Socrates. When the ideas and practices of the enlightened sages are introduced to a prophetic culture of prophets, it is likely to create conflicts as well as attempts to create a synthesis with them. In that conclusion, you brought together so many things, Socrates. I have thought and experienced that I would really like to see more in detail. Or better yet, by example. Rather than explaining my conclusion, why not review how this conflict and these attempts at the synthesis took place in Judaism? Let's keep going till we reach the chorus. Even through Judaism, says Jesus, even though Judaism is many things and takes on many forms, the core beliefs do not change. In every prophetic religious tradition, not only Judaism, there are many voices urging that this and that needs to be done, but the core beliefs retain their grip on the soul. There are times when core beliefs can be reflected on, and to some degree modified, under the force of the new, but when a crisis comes, there is always the force to re-establish the old. I am pleased I am, says Socrates, to reflect on that force, and more so to learn how it relates to the new. What form do you see it has taken? It is true that we have a prophetic tradition, but we too have our sages. We call the sage movement the role of the priest or the rabbi. It is a profound movement, from prophet to sage. When you and I say there is no place where God is not, then we are saying the old notion of a God in heaven has given way to the realization that the light of God reaches into everyone and all things, while still being what it always is. The teaching is for the most part from our sages. This teaching, for the most part, is from our sages. Under the guidance of the tales of the rabbi, each person sees what is to be seen, which was never hidden. There is no truth that can remain hidden. It is like clouds. Oh, not clouds. Clouds obscuring the sun's rays that are swept away with the new light of dawn. Nothing is remote from the divine. I see you like that, Socrates. We should visit such teachings, the fusion of the, let's see if I can pronounce this, Chassidic and Sephardic, the fusion of the Chassidic and the Sephardic with the Kabbalah moves in this creatively profound way. The teachings of the Baal Shem Tov are most interesting to me. The openings of wisdom by Lusato added to the insight into the 10 Sephirot of the mental powers found in the 10 Sephirot of the Kabbalah. So there is Chassidic and Sephardic teachings that confuse with the Kabbalah, and there are these other people who added to it to talk about the 10 Sephirot of the Kabbalah. 10 mental powers? Interesting. So we're saying that there is room for sages with even within a prophetic or belief-based tradition. Well said, says Socrates. I am very pleased to hear it. It is likely to be similar to what can be seen in Plato's Parmenides. That's what we've been talking about over here, right? That's Plato's Parmenides. That's future Trunks. Unrelated. It is likely these 10 Sephiroth are likely to be similar to what can be seen in Plato's Parmenides. There you can find 9 hypotheses. And with Zeno's, you have the 10. Uh-oh. We have to add a 10th hypothesis of Parmenides from Zeno. What could that be? Now this is big. This is a big deal. One of the interviews that Pierre gave before he passed away was with what's his name? I'll find it. Okay. One of the last interviews Pierre gave was on a YouTube channel of John Vervaeke, and the video is called Unveiling the Self, a Philosophical Journey. Philosophy of Meditation number 2 with Pierre Grimes. It is a fantastic and fascinating interview. The more that you know about philosophy and midwifery, the more you will see in that dialogue. But in that dialogue, he mentions, by the way, we can still add to the hypotheses of Parmenides. Now, we formerly thought of the hypotheses of Parmenides as a complete system, more complete even than the 10 oxiding pictures of Buddhism. But one of the post-mortem Nen puzzles Socrates has given us is to add to those 9. Now, the significance of that puzzle may or may not have gone over the heads of these guys. Maybe they saw it. But that's been a huge puzzle. And here, he's at least giving us a hint. Zeno's hypothesis, which isn't talked about, or isn't explained directly, referred to, is the 10th. I have been speculating on what I thought the 10th would be. And there's a question, can there be an 11th? Or 12th? It's a puzzle that I've had for a while. Anyway, here's a clue. You can add Zeno's hypothesis, which isn't directly stated, but referred to in the Parmenides as the 10th. Each system deals with the powers of each system deals with the powers of the mind, and it can be seen that the wisdom traditions cut across all traditions. From what I have heard, Plato's Parmenides has brought forth the Kabbalah in the Sephardic tradition, and it has been growing ever since. After our talk, I too plan to make a few heavenly visits with those you mentioned who are exploring these things. That's interesting. So the Kabbalah has been said to be when somebody added their understanding of the Parmenides into the Sephardic tradition. Isn't a bad thing, it's great. If it's true, then it's true. It's for everyone. What way of dealing with the Parmenides is this, though? Could it be that using the rational system of Parmenides to patchwork the Sephardic belief tradition? That fourth way of interpreting? So could we understand the Kabbalah as the fourth version of interpretation as a reaction to the rational truth of the Parmenides? To patchwork up the Sephardic tradition? Interesting. Is it worth understanding the Kabbalah? What it is and where it came from? Well, it's definitely worth understanding in this way because we are looking for all of the possible ways of interpreting, and that would be a demonstration. So when we find a way of placing this fourth, the patchwork one, we can draw a little image to represent the Kabbalah, just as when we have the Parmenides, for each of these systems of thought, we can add a little image. For example, next to the second, we can put this, the Taoist symbol. Because that's a tradition that represents the second hypothesis as the highest level of development. Nihilism. Not only is there no level of being, there's not even a physical world. So we can draw a rock with a cross through it. The eighth hypothesis is there's only a material world, so we draw a rock. So we have a symbol next to each of them. So when we have our map or our paradigm or model of all of the ways of reacting to truth that human beings can have, which may even be a developmental level, maybe you can improve. Maybe your first reaction to truth is to say, no, get out of here. Tall poppy syndrome. The next would be like, oh, okay, I like it, but really I'm just going to pretend. Wolf in sheep's clothing. And the next way can be, oh, I'm going to use it a little bit. And now we can draw, maybe that's the seventh, we can draw a picture of whatever represents the Kabbalah there as an example of that way of interpreting. So that's what's ahead for us in this amazing book. Let's keep going. Oh, and also is the idea that after we leave this physical plane, maybe we have a chance to meet with people who are continuing their development, exploring such things. If that's the case, maybe it's worth ourselves understanding the dialectic so we can have the best kinds of conversations and explore in the best kind of ways, like Socrates is doing. Whole, part, same, different, like, unlike. Maybe use the hypotheses of Parmenides to recognize who we're talking with. Oh, you're an eighth, you're a second, you're a third. Maybe anticipate the levels of reaction if you want to introduce a new truth to these people in the higher dimensions. Oh, hey, Mr. Sephardic guy, here's the Parmenides. Oh, I will take that and create the Kabbalah. Anticipating the reactions to it. Earlier, I was reflecting on my own experience, just telling the truth to people in Australia and how terrible that was, because one of the most common reactions to the Logos is the Pathologos counterattack, to completely deny it and be fiercely loyal to the old beliefs. So I was naive. I didn't have this model under my belt to know how to share it in the best possible way. And if all that's the case, then it might be worth spending our time mastering this dialectic, mastering the hypotheses, including the mysterious 10th. And also, let's nail down this model of ways of reacting to new truth so that if we do meet these people in the higher dimensions, we can navigate the conversation in the most ideal and excellent way. Wouldn't that be neat?
Unbelievable
Sluts these days.
The more holes, the better.
Another one.
That's where you live, in the weirdo pool. You're going...
Okay. Jesus responds, I should not let your praise obscure the point you're making, Socrates. From what you have attested, we need to say something about this entrance of the Kabbalah into tradition. I cannot hesitate to say a truth, even if some might prefer it otherwise. Indeed, if the source of the Kabbalah is the Parmenides, then that means they fit into the class of interpreters that is akin 2, Jed up in here, calling us shots off the backboard. Watch out. Oh, shit. Don't do that. Akin to the Force class, since they use the new to patch up the old. Hooray for me. No, hooray. I can have a little celebration if I want sometimes too. Calling the shots. And if I had 100,000 Twitch chatters from Hassan Piker and Asmund Gold, I'd be saying, you pre-read it, you pre-read it. That was just, no. We're just reading properly. We got ahead of it. That was neat. So, if what you're saying is true, Socrates, says Jesus, then the Kabbalah is an example of that fourth kind of interpretation, the patchwork one. Adding the rational structure of the Parmenides to improve the otherwise lacking rationality in the other system. Neat.
Imagine people changing their positions and improving for the better.
I've been a bad little girl.
Okay. Soundboard nonsense. The chorus jumps in. Here's the chorus. Here we are again, says the chorus, making divisions and classes, and sticking members into them is the mark of analysis. Neither of them had the courage to speak out and admit that the only reason they didn't write anything down was because they probably couldn't put it into words. No one grasped what either of them was doing anyway. Their teachings offered everything to those in heaven and delivered nothing on earth. Clearly, they both had faults because they took on a body. Why else would you be on earth if you didn't have faults? Did they fail in their so-called mission? Who among their followers ever really understood a single thing they said? Logic and understanding go just so far, and the rest of the way goes with faith and belief. All of this talk of making distinctions or divisions within classes is a diversion. Just notice how the appeal to truth has a ring of something noble and good. Let's not forget, they didn't express this so-called truth, did they? I didn't hear anything about love, only logic. Anyone can only take in what fits into their past, and all the rest is left on the plate to be thrown out. That's what. Now look at this absurdity. Calling on Plato's Parmenides, that's a stupid logical work of no importance. What fool could believe the influence of Parmenides could possibly create a spiritual work, such as the Kabbalah? Go ahead and add it to a movement that thinks the void is filled with God. Where will this nonsense end? Wow. The chorus is not happy. Now, I wonder if this chorus is itself relating to the truth that they have just witnessed. Rational analysis. Their reaction was to attack both of them. Well, if they were even born, that means they had a fault in their soul. Otherwise, why come here to learn? Which, there's probably some truth to that. But their teachings offered nothing to people on Earth because no one grasped what they were doing anyway. No one understood. But not only that, not only do they suck as a soul for being here, and they suck as a teacher for not teaching anyone properly, and that's why they couldn't write anything down, so they sucked as a scribe. But also, logic and understanding sucks, because it only goes so far. Then you need faith and belief. So they're tacking on a little bit of logic. Oh, maybe they're doing a bit of the fourth interpretation, hacking on a little bit. Maybe rejecting it. Wonder what state they're in. Logic and understanding goes so far. Then you need faith and belief. Making distinctions or divisions within classes, that's a diversion. It's just an appeal to truth. It sounds noble. They're just imitators. There is no truth. It's just all appearance and imitation. Look at these jokers. Anyway, they're not even talking about love, only logic. Boo. Boo, boo, no love. These eggheads, Jesus and Socrates, talking about logic and no love. Boo. By the way, anyone can only take in what fits into their past. No one can actually learn anything new. You just take what fits the beliefs you already have. The rest is thrown out into the garbage. And by the way, I've heard people who are academics talk about the Parmenides, and what they tell me is it's just a logical exercise. There's no autos or self in there. It's no spiritual work. Just a rational thing that you can ignore. That's why they call it the greatest book never read. So how can something that's just logical create a spiritual work like the Kabbalah? Bollocks to that, says the chorus. Add it to a movement that thinks the void is filled with God. That's what Jesus said earlier, right? God is everywhere in some way. Even in the void. Crazy, 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 says the chorus. So they're having a reaction to what they've been seeing. Now the anti-chorus jumps in. Shouts again from the fools over there in the white team. We are the red team. Fools, shouts again from the fools out there. Wake up. Your bitterness clouds your words. Are you sharing how you feel about these two sages, or are you describing some flaw in what they have said or done? We heard it and hope you did too. Take seriously that someone right here is going to offer the only way to truth can become present and visible to us all. Let's read that again. You have a bitterness that's clouding your words, they say. Are you sharing how you feel? Or are you just about these two sages, or are you just picking out flaws? We heard it and we hope you do too. Take seriously that someone right here is going to offer the only way to truth. Sorry. They're going to offer the only way that truth can become present and visible to us all. Can you suspend your bitterness and let what follows develop naturally through this dialogue? So sit down and listen. Their claim is, hey, it's that fear of the mind again that we talked about earlier. It's a bitterness that's clouding what they're seeing, because what we are outlining here, if there is a truth, which is important because we've been saying there's a truth to the meaning of life. We gave an example of Pierre teaching it in class and no one really paying attention. We gave an outline of its development and its counterattack in history as we killed Socrates here. We discovered that there are 4 parts: philosophy, midwifery, dream analysis, and mythology. They all use the dialectic, which we're using again. It seems to be the highest structure of intelligence. The new way of being we're calling the love of the philodianoia, the love of understanding. And it's a return to the rational Hellenic way of being that we broke off from when we killed Socrates in front of Plato losing dream analysis, midwifery, and mythology. And then we even lost philosophy with Aristotle into materialism, which is where we're suffering. We're not able to solve problems. We are stuck in fate that's leading to our extinction. Thankfully, we had another gift from the gods, Pierre Grimes, who rediscovered these three aspects and even included a mythology that Socrates didn't include because we killed him before he had time. So we can turn it around and rediscover our golden age, the Greek age, the Hellenic age, the rational way of being, to reach the destiny of man through a new way of being called philodianoia, which is the meaning of life. Now, all that may be true and is true, but it ain't gonna make a lick of difference if we can't see it. Just like the guy sitting in the back row when I was in Pierre's class and the symposium, when he wrote the meaning of life on the board, and I was like, hey, dum-dum, look, the meaning of life. Do you know who this guy is? Do you know how fortunate you are to have Pierre as your teacher? Stop scribbling and look up. Didn't affect him. I even invited him to come to a midwife talk on a Friday. He didn't show up. His family showed up, ready to attack what's new to save their old beliefs. He went snowboarding. And I went to all that time to explain who the teacher was, the significance of the symposium, the importance of understanding the meaning of life, how it could even benefit him in his snowboarding, to overcome the blocks he has to having excellence in his snowboarding. Didn't mean shit. Why? Because of what we're doing here. The truth can fly by us. The truth is obvious to those who see it. Obviously, understanding solves problems. When your toaster is broken, you don't genocide all toasters like Netanyahu does. You don't put them in a concentration camp like Trump does. You don't beat them up and grape them like ICE does. You understand the cause of the broken toaster so you can address it through understanding. Hey, with understanding, you can even improve the toaster. Add a pancake timer on it. Make pancakes. Understanding applied to toasters. Well, hang on a second. Isn't the soul more important than a toaster? Aren't human beings more important than toasters? Isn't government and religion, or people who speak for God, or sages, ideally, and leaders in politics, aren't they more important than toaster manufacturers? Why then are we so irrational and immature, savages from caveman times, when it comes to human beings and souls, when we can be rational when it comes to toasters? That's what we are addressing. In other words, when the truth is obvious, you know what? We've heard that before. Toaster was a derogatory word to AI in Battlestar Galactica. Somebody shared a picture of a sexy blonde toaster or something in Battlestar Galactica. I'm not familiar with the show. Yeah, I've heard that. So our question is, hey, it's obvious to those to whom it's obvious. Could be Socrates, could be everybody here who's going through this. People are going through midwifery, going through philosophy, dream analysis, and reading these books. Obvious. Yeah, understand it. Blind loyalty to our sexism and racism and pathologos beliefs, yeah, that's causing human problems. We still have Nazis. We still have capitalism. We still have fascism. Exactly. How the hell do we understand people like Trump? A blind loyalty to the false beliefs from their childhood. His dad was a KKK guy. His dad hated the poor. His dad was a con artist. Oh, just like son. No surprise there when it's obvious to you because of midwifery. Equally so, how do we progress through an ordered structure of development, obvious to anybody who's into the Parmenides? Is there a rational structure of human development that can be put within the structure of the dialectic? Yep, it's the Parmenides. And that's the cause of the Kabbalah. One group who tried to cobble that into their old beliefs. One of many ways of interpreting the truth. So what? So, if we are going to develop as human souls, anyone on this channel, they are going to have one of a group of reactions to truth. Most people will just think that this channel is dumb. They will reject the new truth, what's rational, what's universal, to save their old beliefs. Some people may pretend to be involved in this game, but really they're just trolling. They're just keeping their old beliefs and pretending to take in this new understanding. Some people may take a little bit of this understanding or pretend, or take a little bit of it and cobble it into their old beliefs. I'm going to use midwifery to become a better Jew, or to get people into the mafia, or to become a better Trump guy. And some people ultimately will take on the new and let go of the false. That seems to be the best. But there seem to be more divisions between those three that we have and that best one. Why is this important? Well, just like Pierre on his board, we have written on the board here the same word. Meaning alike. Of course it is. It's obvious. What else are we here for? To get rich? To collect all the properties and make everyone homeless? Or to move from belief-based thinking to understanding-based thinking that can solve problems and reach our highest excellence both here and beyond this life? Obviously, it's this. Philodianoia. But that's not going to do anything. Not going to change anyone's mind. Unless we can find a hierarchical, ordered way of understanding all of the ways human beings respond to truth. This isn't just any old truth, it's literally the meaning of life. It's the best one, it's the highest one. So it's going to trigger all kinds of negative reactions, and hopefully some positive ones, by the people who are already following this channel. Maybe. But for us to do our job, we're not reinventing anything, we've rediscovered Socrates. We didn't even rediscover it, Pierre Grimes did. Our job is to share it, to solve poverty, to solve Nazism, to solve genocide, to solve irrationality and immaturity and cruelty and caveman-like allegiance to false beliefs of the old tradition. That's our job. Punch a Nazi with logos, with your words. That's our job. Not to rediscover the meaning of life, it's already written on the board. And it was written in the board 10 years ago when Pierre was teaching classes at Golden West. Didn't stop Trump from getting into power. Didn't stop the genocide of the Palestinians. Hasn't stopped capitalism and growing wealth inequality. So what's our job? This. To understand that when this new truth is being introduced, there are going to be many ways that people will respond to it. Because we're human beings. If we can, as Socrates was saying, understand it within a model or paradigm, we can anticipate all of the reactions. And if we can take all of those reactions within the paradigm of the dialectic, just like the hypotheses of Parmenides, and we can recognize them as an ordered system, we might even say, hey, it's not bad that some people reject truth outright. That's just the stage they're in. It's not bad that people pretend to be interested in this, but they're really just trolling. That's just the next stage. In fact, that's better than the previous guys. At least they're here. And so on and so on. Can we see that all of the ways human beings will respond to truth, and this is the truth, not opinion, not belief, it's the opposite, not the prophetic tradition. but all of the ways human beings will respond to new truth or a new way of being necessary for our human development and to save ourselves from our fate and extinction can be seen as necessary as also part of human growth and evolution. If that's the case, then we can take that with us in our back pockets as we share the truth of the dialectic and philodianoia. To protect ourselves from the counterattacks from savages holding on to their old beliefs, which is something that human beings can do from our caveman times, but also to help guide people from that savagery to higher participation in reflection, reason, and assimilation to the truth. It's not just good enough to tell the truth and write the meaning of life on the board. We have to understand how humans will respond to it so we can necessarily guide them through their own development of responding to truth and integrating it into a new way of being that is necessary for the new age. That's our job. And you might even say, therefore, we have a new understanding of the hero's journey.
You're a wizard, Harry.
You're all wizard Harrys. Our call to adventure previous to this book has been Master Philodianoia, Master the Dialectic, Master Midwifery. That's still true. You can't go through this, you can't share the art of midwifery unless you're going through it yourself, unless you're using it yourself. But what we're adding to it is an understanding of the fourth aspect. So far, we've been learning philosophy. We've been doing a bit of dream analysis. We've been getting right into midwifery. When we share it, how do we share it most accurately? How do we share it most justly? And how do we share the truth of this necessary way of being in a way that it's going to be heard, not fought against, recognized, used, assimilated, and benefited from? That's our job now. That's the call to adventure.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
Thank you so much for joining me on this amazing journey through this amazing text. Remember at the start of this series when I said how fantastic this book is, how significant it is, and how significant the author is? Now you are seeing how significant this whole thing is. There's no use saying Philodianoia is a new way of being and the meaning of life. We have to learn how to share it in a way that can be heard. If you've come along this far, thank you so much. I hope you got a lot out of it. I hope you got a lot to wonder about. And I hope you practice sharing it with your friends and loved ones. And of course, feel free to follow along on Twitch. Be one of the early subscribers before we get the hundreds and thousands from Hassan and from Asmongold. You can follow and subscribe on YouTube. You can donate to the channel if you like. If you know about cameras and stuff, drop me a line. I need to get a better camera than the webcam. And join the Discord. There should be a link below and you'll get a notification when we go live. Once again, thank you so much for being on this journey with me.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
And I'll see you in the next one.